The triumphant roar of the KBO League season filled the autumn air, yet for one team's devoted fans, a bitter symphony of disappointment played on. Their 10th consecutive last-place finish drew furious jeers from the stands, as fans demanded to know if they dared call themselves professionals. Such an unprecedented losing streak provoked a furious outcry, with fans clamoring for their salaries back and questioning the very integrity of the sport. For a decade, promises of next year had dissolved into shame, leaving fans with only betrayal and a haunting question: was this truly a professional team? Media outlets had an easy target for the Unicorns' woes, the manager and front office, but Seo Do-young knew the problem ran deeper. Having held the first overall draft pick for 10 consecutive years, their failure to unearth a single successful rookie cast a heavy shadow, and Seo Do-young bore the weight of that scouting blame. The furious shouts of fans demanding the Unicorns' disbandment grew louder, a desperate plea for an end to their endless humiliation. The unified chant for the team's dissolution echoed through the stadium, fueled by collective rage. The fans' calls to disband the team reached a furious crescendo, an undeniable demand for change. The angry cries for disbandment faded as news anchors reported the unthinkable: the professional baseball team Unicorns would take responsibility for their disgraceful decade of failure. Fans watching the news reacted with shock, realizing the casual "we'll do better next year" had become a devastating reality. The team was truly disbanding. And so, the Unicorns, a franchise present since the league's inception, would vanish into history. With her team gone, Seo Do-young walked through the silent office, carrying her life in a box, knowing it was truly over. Her 5 years as a scout ended abruptly, her identity reduced to a name on a discarded ID card, now meaningless. A former colleague cheerfully announced his new position with the Seoul Buffaloes, then asked Seo Do-young, who stammered in confusion, about her own future. Seo Do-young stumbled over her words, prompting the man to ask directly if she had received any job offers. "I'm thinking of taking a bit of a break," Seo Do-young replied, trying to mask her pain, which her colleague optimistically interpreted as a healthy decision for her youth. She reiterated her plan for a short break, a fragile self-deception pinned to her scout ID. Inside, Seo Do-young clung to a desperate hope that some team would still seek her out during the Stove League, her teary eyes betraying her forced smile. 6 months later, the truth was undeniable. Seo Do-young was still sound asleep, ignoring a persistent voice calling her name from outside her peaceful slumber. "Are you not getting up?" her mother demanded, jolting Seo Do-young awake with a panicked thought of job hunting. The morning sky was clear and bright. "Ugh, Mom," Seo Do-young grumbled, rubbing her eye, "I'm unemployed, let me sleep in a little." Her mother, spatula in hand, furiously reminded her that unemployment was nothing to brag about, especially after 6 months, sparking an exasperated sigh from Seo Do-young. Seo Do-young defiantly declared she was still receiving unemployment benefits, only to be met with her mother's abrupt question about why she was eating bread instead of rice. Seo Do-young could only manage a confused, bread-filled, "huh." She then noticed an unfamiliar baseball game app on her phone, wondering when she had ever downloaded it. Puzzled, Seo Do-young questioned the strange app name and wondered if her phone had been hacked, just as her mother announced her uncle was looking for her. "Huh? Why uncle?" Seo Do-young asked, while internally drawing a cynical comparison between her uncle's perpetually losing high school team and the defunct Unicorns. Her mother's suggestion to help with the baseball team immediately met Seo Do-young's indignant refusal. She had worked in pro baseball, after all. "You just loaf around at home," her mother snapped, grabbing Seo Do-young's arm with a sharp smack and demanding she agree to her uncle's request. "I said okay." Seo Do-young cried out, lamenting her miserable fate as an unemployed young adult in her own home, as her mother pushed her out the door. With a resigned sigh, Seo Do-young walked through the doorway. Her thoughts turned to high school baseball, a somber cloud of contemplation settling over her. She reflected on her 5 years as a scout, admitting that despite traveling nationwide, she had produced no real results. Forget Rookie of the Year, she thought, I only ever discovered a few prospects who didn't even make it to the first team. She concluded her self-criticism by linking her own inadequacy to the team's ultimate disbandment, a fate she felt she had failed to prevent. Maybe I never had the eye for baseball, she mused, the thought of helping a high school team now weighing heavily with self-doubt. Just as she resolved to politely decline her uncle's offer, a sparkling light from her phone caught her by surprise. "What the?" she gasped, her eyes wide as the phone glowed intensely in her hand. She realized she had opened the mysterious High School Baseball Tycoon app, which was now prompting her to log in. A curious "oh" escaped her lips as the app responded. The app's system announced it was checking Scout's grade, leaving Seo Do-young utterly bewildered about what grade it meant. Seo Do-young gasped in utter astonishment as the system displayed her 5 years of professional scouting experience with the Unicorns, complete with her 2 late-round, 0 top-round, draft picks. Seo Do-young held her breath, anxiously awaiting the revelation of her scout grade. "You've got to be kidding me!" Seo Do-young shrieked, dropping her phone in outrage as the app declared her scout grade was an F. Who are you calling an F grade? She fumed, exasperated that even an app would judge her, adding to her already immense stress. Forget it, she sighed, deciding to put aside her anger and prepare to head out, opening a closet door with a creak. She confirmed her plan to meet her uncle at the school and turn him down face to face. Suddenly, a glowing blue interface appeared on her phone, revealing a main quest to stop Cheongil High from being shut down by accepting the coaching position with an F-grade scout skill as a reward. Seo Do-young arrived at Cheongil High, observing the large building she had never visited despite its proximity. She walked through the quiet school grounds, searching for the principal's office, and then realized it was still break, so the halls were empty. Ah! There's someone over there, she thought, deciding to ask the man kneeling by the fence for directions. Excuse me. Seo Do-young called out, approaching the man and politely asking for directions to the principal's office. The man turned, grinning, "Oh. Aren't you Do-young?" Seo Do-young gasped in surprise, realizing the man was her uncle, the principal of Cheongil High. What are you doing here, uncle? Seo Do-young asked, surprised to find her uncle personally fixing the wire fence. He groaned, stretching his back after his labor, prompting Seo Do-young to suggest he hire professional help. It's just a fence, her uncle dismissed, then gestured vaguely, his expression hinting at the school's financial realities. The principal explained the baseball team operated on a tight budget, forcing them to fix everything themselves. They meticulously cut costs wherever possible, he added, pointing to the humble baseball equipment. Don't worry, you'll be paid your full salary, her uncle chuckled, causing an awkward "ah" from Seo Do-young. Uncle? Seo Do-young began hesitantly, looking away. I actually came here to turn you down. Why? Her uncle asked, speculating if another pro team had contacted her, which Seo Do-young flusteredly denied. Seo Do-young explained her self-doubt, admitting her lack of success in the pros and her fear of becoming a burden to the high school kids. My, you've really lost a lot of confidence, her uncle said gently, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. But don't worry. He promised to prove she would never be a burden to their baseball team, his confident thumbs up surprising Seo Do-young. This here is Cheongil High's baseball club, he announced, gesturing toward a small, dilapidated building with a creak. The old baseball club nameplate hung precariously, a spiderweb decorating its weathered surface. The building is a bit old, isn't it? Seo Do-young stammered in surprise, as her uncle calmly explained it was a converted storage building. But we're working hard on renovations, so there shouldn't be any problem, her uncle confidently asserted, reaching for the door, prompting Seo Do-young to skeptically ask, renovations? Done by who? Why, the players themselves, of course, her uncle replied, revealing young baseball players diligently doing concrete work, shocking Seo Do-young. We've filled in all the holes, an enthusiastic player reported to the principal, who praised their work and jokingly suggested fixing the ceiling next. And who's that next to you? The player asked, catching Seo Do-young mid-thought, her internal panic growing as she realized her plan to refuse was now complicated. Ah. You must be the guest the principal said he would bring, exclaimed team captain No Juk-young, introducing himself with a warm smile. Seo Do-young observed the players' hopeful faces, clearly expecting something from a former pro scout, and mused if she gave off a pro vibe, even as they whispered about her being a woman. Ugh. I can't bring myself to turn them down to their faces, she thought, her feet shuffling back in conflict. Excuse me, I'm just going to use the bathroom real quick. Seo Do-young cried, bolting from the room in a comedic flurry, internally urging herself to just run. The bewildered baseball players discussed the mysterious guest who had urgently darted off to the bathroom. A baseball player with red hair wondered hopefully if the principal had finally found them a coach. The sound of running water indicated she had reached her destination. Phew. Seo Do-young sighed, leaning against the doorway, relieved by her narrow escape. Okay then, she whispered to herself, I'll just sneak out quietly now. A sudden loud clang startled Seo Do-young in the hallway. She looked out a window, intrigued by the noise. What's that sound, she wondered, leaning out the window as another clang echoed. Seo Do-young watched as high school baseball players practiced on the field below, their excited shouts echoing with each successful hit. Cheongil High School. She thought, gazing out at the bright sky. Reading a news article on her phone, Seo Do-young discovered Cheongil High's baseball team was desperate for a win, led by a regular teacher without an official head coach. Seo Do-young gasped in horror, realizing the team hadn't won a single game last year, students were transferring out, and the club was on the verge of being shut down, a high school version of the Unicorns. What am I supposed to even do with a team that has no coach and barely any players, she fumed, vehemently deciding to turn her uncle down flat. Or so I thought, Seo Do-young mused, still resting her head on the table as another clang of a bat reached her ears. A sweating baseball player exhorted his teammate, their collective effort clear despite their struggles. If the team's going to be shut down anyway, Seo Do-young wondered, her thoughts heavy with melancholy, then why are those kids working so hard? A buzzing sound alerted Seo Do-young, causing her to look up. Huh? Is that my phone? She mumbled, fumbling in her back pocket with a surprised, ah. Seriously, I'm so scatterbrained, Seo Do-young muttered, bending down to retrieve her phone. Her eyes widened, reflecting a sudden light. On the tiled floor lay a familiar Unicorns baseball team keychain. Seo Do-young picked it up, her heart aching as she thought, it's going to disappear, isn't it? Just like the Unicorns. Crouching alone in the long hallway, Seo Do-young reflected on her past, wishing she had done a little better, tried a little harder. She wondered if her efforts could have prevented her team, the Unicorns, from being disbanded. Suddenly, sparkling lights appeared around her, hinting at a new development. Huh, she murmured, it's glowing again. The mysterious glow reflected brightly in her eye. The high school baseball tycoon main quest reappeared on her phone, reiterating the objective to save Cheongil High and accept the coaching position. What is with this app? Seo Do-young wondered, finally comprehending its persistent demand to stop the club from being shut down. She doubted her ability to make a difference, reflecting on angry Unicorns fans and her own sad dismissal from the team. A single tear rolled down her cheek, a silent testament to her lingering pain. But still, she thought, her gaze falling upon the unicorn horn baseball cap. Her expression hardened with a newfound determination as she considered the possibility, if I could protect them. If I were given a chance to protect a team, she declared internally, the game quest reappearing on her phone, reinforcing the opportunity. With a firm touch to her phone screen, Seo Do-young resolved not to let this team disappear like the Unicorns did. A quiet determination settled over Seo Do-young as she stood in the hallway. Suddenly, her phone flared with an intense, surprising light. Where did the screen go? Seo Do-young shrieked in panic and rage, I finally decide to give it a shot and this happens. Are you messing with me? Screen, come back out right now. I said come back out. Seo Do-young screamed, her face contorted in furious frustration. Whoa whoa whoa. Seo Do-young cried, recoiling in terror as her phone blasted out a powerful, blinding blue light. Ah, she yelped, collapsing onto the floor, dazed by the unexpected emission. Rubbing her eyes, Seo Do-young mumbled, what is this, seriously? Still on the floor, Seo Do-young looked up with wide, shocked eyes. From the screen. She gasped, her eyes fixed on something amazing, something just. A glowing blue, semi-transparent object floated magically in the school hallway. Whoa. Seo Do-young stammered from the floor, what is this? She exclaimed in astonishment, there's a card pack floating in midair. Seo Do-young then noticed another glowing object appearing, her surprise growing. The system congratulated her on clearing her first quest. You have received your clear reward, the system declared, showering Seo Do-young with glowing lights as it granted her F-grade scout skills and basic cards. Basic cards? Seo Do-young questioned, then a realization dawned on her, hold on. Don't tell me these cards are. She stared in disbelief at a physical card depicting No Jak-young, a member of Cheongil High's baseball team. The system explained that as an F-grade scout, she could now view stats for Cheongil High players, displaying No Jak-young's detailed pitcher stats. This is amazing. Seo Do-young exclaimed, marveling at her new ability to see player stats at a glance, then reached for another object. A C-grade baseball, she asked, holding another glowing card, wondering if it was an item. The system clarified that items could only be used a limited number of times, explaining the C-grade baseball would increase a pitcher's velocity and stuff, and that various items could be obtained as quest rewards. Your unique scout skills, the system announced, detailing abilities like checking player grades, analyzing batting, and pitching, prompting an excited, my unique skills, from Seo Do-young. This is unreal, Seo Do-young muttered, clutching two glowing cards, you're telling me I can use this baseball game system on a real-life baseball team? A determined smile graced Seo Do-young's face as she declared, if this is really happening, then I can do it. I can not only stop Cheongil High from being shut down, I can even dream of conquering the national stage. Seo Do-young exclaimed, surprised by the system's announcement that a new quest had appeared. Another quest already. Seo Do-young wondered, slightly overwhelmed but curious about its new objective. A sub-main quest appeared, tasking Seo Do-young with head-hunting a new head coach for Cheongil High, with a B-grade player, as a reward, surprising her once more. The school building stood under a bright, clear sky, a familiar sight for another day. On the field, a player called out his pitch, a breaking ball, as cheers erupted from the team during an active practice game. Principal Kim Min-sik tilted his head, a small HM, escaping his lips as something unexpected caught his attention. Seo Do-young arrived, offering an embarrassed laugh and a quick apology for her tardiness, blaming an urgent trip to the bathroom. Principal Kim Min-sik playfully teased her about an emergency poop, prompting Seo Do-young's shocked denial. The mood shifted as Principal Kim Min-sik gravely informed Seo Do-young that he had been thinking of something serious. His somber words, suggesting they call the whole thing off, left Seo Do-young in utter shock. Seo Do-young stood silently, deeply affected as Principal Kim Min-sik explained that asking her to work for a team on the verge of disappearing might have been too much. Seo Do-young gently touched Principal Kim Min-sik's arm, ready to challenge his resignation with a famous baseball saying. Her gaze intense and determined, Seo Do-young quoted a timeless adage, "It ain't over till it's over," questioning if giving up now wasn't too soon. With a confident smile, Seo Do-young announced to a stunned Principal Kim Min-sik that she had found a way to save the baseball team. She confidently revealed the high school baseball Tycoon app, declaring it her mysterious key to making Cheongil High a powerhouse. Seo Do-young, radiant with conviction, felt chosen by the god of baseball through this app, believing it solidified her destined role. The school building again stood, a constant presence under the clear sky. On the field, a player with glasses enthusiastically announced his next throw would be a curveball. A batter powerfully struck the ball, sending a runner dashing towards second base in a dynamic moment of the game. Seo Do-young questioned the team's size, and Principal Kim Min-sik sadly confirmed that most of their players had transferred elsewhere. Principal Kim Min-sik recounted the team's decline, explaining that an interim coach had been leading the team since the previous head coach left due to health issues. As Seo Do-young listened, Principal Kim Min-sik revealed the team's dismal performance, never winning a single game and losing all their talented players early on. Reflecting on the remaining players, Seo Do-young initiated her scouting ability to assess the skill level of those who had stayed. The app immediately displayed a player's D-grade stats, detailing his velocity, control, break, stuff, and mental fortitude. The scouting feature then revealed another player's E+ grade batting stats, including contact, power, defense, discipline, and base running. Seo Do-young, observing the digital overlays of F+, E, and E grades, realized the brutal truth: Cheongil High was comprised solely of bottom-tier players. Her eyes fixed on a pitcher, Seo Do-young wondered if this D-grade player was the highest ranked on the entire team. The pitcher gleefully admitted to lying about throwing a fastball, surprising the batter with his actual pitch. Seo Do-young was amazed by her app's pitching analysis feature, which instantly displayed the pitcher's speed and spin rate. The data confirmed her suspicions, revealing that both the pitcher's velocity and spin rate were severely lacking. With a determined smirk, Seo Do-young contemplated a solution. She excitedly decided to use an item, a C-grade baseball, which the system explained would boost a pitcher's control and stuff by 3 points. As the C-grade baseball item was used, the pitcher's stats immediately increased, causing him to subtly flinch as if sensing the change. The pitcher, now emboldened, confidently declared he was throwing a curveball. The batter was visibly surprised by the unexpected speed and movement of the ball as it whizzed past. The batter shouted in frustration, realizing the pitch was not the curveball he had anticipated as he swung. The pitcher, wiping sweat from his brow, expressed confusion at his sudden, inexplicable improvement, wondering why his pitches were so effective. The updated pitching analysis confirmed a significant increase in both his velocity and spin rate. Seo Do-young celebrated the successful item use, confidently planning to leverage them for clutch moments, while the batter expressed confusion over the pitcher's sudden fiery performance. The red-haired batter questioned the pitcher's sudden excellence, and his words startled Seo Do-young. The second-year catcher, Han Tae-young, radiating confidence, declared his intent to truly enjoy hitting today. Seo Do-young, curious about the player, asked Principal Kim Min-sik, who teased her again about her bathroom break, while Han Tae-young confidently instructed the fielders to move back. Principal Kim Min-sik began to introduce the red-haired player with a subtle sense of pride. He hailed the confident Han Tae-young as Cheongil High's sole hope, as another player enthusiastically encouraged him. Shocked by the revelation, Seo Do-young gasped, immediately activating her scouting ability to uncover the nature of this exceptional player. A gleam in her eye, Seo Do-young let out a surprised and impressed "oh ho ho," indicating a significant discovery. The pitcher unleashed a powerful, glowing pitch with intense force. The baseball spun rapidly through the air, emphasized by a distinct whirring sound. Han Tae-young, intensely focused, prepared to swing at the incoming pitch. With a powerful swing, Han Tae-young sent the ball soaring high into the sky, dismissing the pitch as way too slow. Seo Do-young's heart pounded with excitement as she realized Cheongil High possessed a truly talented player. She exclaimed her discovery of a player who was at least above average. The app confirmed Han Tae-young's impressive B-grade stats, showcasing his strong contact, power, defense, and discipline. Principal Kim Min-sik formally introduced Seo Do-young to the dejected team as their new scout and coach. Seo Do-young greeted the team with a broad, confident smile, promising to make Cheongil High the best, then playfully warned them not to fall for her charm. The players enthusiastically welcomed Seo Do-young, with some openly admiring her adorableness. Han Tae-young, annoyed and dismissive, muttered that the team needed a head coach, not a new coach. Principal Kim Min-sik, visibly flustered, reassured everyone they were actively searching for a head coach, while Seo Do-young silently judged Han Tae-young's disrespect. Han Tae-young angrily confronted Principal Kim Min-sik about his unkept promise to hire a head coach, while another player nervously tried to intervene. Han Tae-young defiantly threatened to leave the team if a head coach wasn't hired before the league started, leaving Principal Kim Min-sik flustered. The red-haired player dismissively declared he was leaving practice for the day, having seen enough of the introductions. Han Tae-young walked away, leaving Seo Do-young, Principal Kim Min-sik, and the other players stunned by his abrupt departure. Seo Do-young, enraged by the rudeness, demanded to know who that rude punk was, as Principal Kim Min-sik tried to calm her down. The other players awkwardly agreed that the tense atmosphere was certainly not conducive to a welcome party. Principal Kim Min-sik dismissed the team for the day, and Seo Do-young acknowledged the situation with a resigned sigh. Principal Kim Min-sik observed that the players were disappointed, having hoped for a new head coach instead of just a scout. Seo Do-young, wiping away a tear, understood the players' explanation that their disappointment stemmed from the team's dire situation, not from her presence. Seo Do-young pulled out her phone, her gaze fixed on the screen. With her app displaying the main quest, Seo Do-young determined that scouting a head coach was her immediate top priority. The school building stood silhouetted against a dramatic, warm sunset sky. Seo Do-young confirmed with Principal Kim Min-sik that he had indeed posted the head coach job listing. Principal Kim Min-sik despondently admitted he didn't expect anyone to contact them, prompting Seo Do-young to question why. 3 scattered resumes lay on a table, remnants of past, unsuccessful attempts. Principal Kim Min-sik recounted how every single applicant, after taking one look at their baseball team, had reacted poorly. He dramatically explained that all potential coaches had freaked out and fled the scene in a panic. Seo Do-young, empathizing, confessed she too would have given up if not for her app. Principal Kim Min-sik suddenly remembered one person he had rejected without even an interview. Seo Do-young, curious and concerned, asked if there was a particular problem with the resume that led to such an immediate dismissal. Principal Kim Min-sik explained that while he wasn't seeking an amazing coach, the applicant's sole experience was giving private lessons, not coaching a team. Seo Do-young questioned the validity of a private lessons coach, and Principal Kim Min-sik justified his swift rejection, arguing for the necessity of team experience. Seo Do-young passionately agreed, indignantly questioning the applicant's professional seriousness, nearly choking on her own words. As Seo Do-young sputtered, the system abruptly commanded her to contact that very person, prompting Principal Kim Min-sik to ask if she was all right. Panicked, Seo Do-young denied the app's instruction, exclaiming that it couldn't be right, which confused Principal Kim Min-sik, who asked who she was talking to. The app reiterated its command, insisting she contact him immediately, causing Seo Do-young to exclaim in surprise. Seo Do-young frantically tried to stop the app, causing Principal Kim Min-sik to lean in with concern, admitting she was starting to scare him. With a resigned sigh, Seo Do-young concluded that nothing ventured meant nothing gained. Seo Do-young, now determined, requested the contact information for the private lesson guy, shocking Principal Kim Min-sik. Seo Do-young reasoned that they were in no position to be picky and should at least hear him out, to which Principal Kim Min-sik reluctantly agreed. Bright sunlight streamed through large wooden window frames, warming the interior. Seo Do-young stood confidently in the sunlit hallway, holding her phone to her ear. A female voice answered the phone, prompting Seo Do-young to ask if she had reached Mr. Park Gwang-moo. Seo Do-young introduced herself as the Cheongil High coach, apologizing for the late response to his resume and eagerly requesting a meeting. After a long silence on the line, Seo Do-young nervously asked if Mr. Park Gwang-moo was still there. The female voice retorted with disbelief that they were only calling a year after he sent his resume, and Seo Do-young tried to calm his shock. Mr. Park Gwang-moo agreed to meet, surprising Seo Do-young, who eagerly tried to schedule a visit to the school. Mr. Park Gwang-moo cut her off, instructing her to come to his lesson field today if she wanted to talk, leaving Seo Do-young utterly surprised. Mr. Park Gwang-moo shrewdly deduced that Cheongil High's situation must be dire if they were finally calling him, the applicant they had rejected a year prior. Mr. Park Gwang-moo set a deadline for the meeting, prompting Seo Do-young to frantically agree and declare she would head out immediately. Seo Do-young, starting her car, internally questioned if she was truly in the weaker negotiating position. Driving with desperate determination, Seo Do-young rationalized that the app's guidance had to be right, convinced it would help her scout a good head coach. A scenic city skyline at sunset overlooked a baseball field, surrounded by trees. Seo Do-young's car screeched to an abrupt halt, knocking over traffic cones with a thud. Looking out her car window, Seo Do-young expressed surprise that the lesson field was merely a park baseball field, not a building. She observed a man giving baseball lessons to elementary school children, realizing the nature of his private lessons. The man turned around, catching Seo Do-young by surprise. Seo Do-young, utterly stunned to find a young man instead of the old guy she expected, finally addressed him by name, Mr. Park Gwang-moo. Mr. Park Gwang-moo, looking serious, greeted Seo Do-young upon her arrival, while a narrative voice questioned why things had to be so difficult. The man kindly offered a drink, which Seo Do-young gratefully accepted. Seo Do-young confessed her surprise, having expected someone much older from Mr. Park Gwang-moo. He quietly drank from his straw, seemingly lost in thought. He continued to drink with a focused intensity. The two sat silently at the picnic table, their gaze fixed on the field before them. The man then clarified he was merely a part-timer, utterly shocking Seo Do-young. He pointed to the real teacher, and Seo Do-young immediately recognized her earlier assumption had been mistaken. With a sudden jolt, Seo Do-young realized the true identity of Mr. Park Gwang-moo. She watched as Mr. Park Gwang-moo knelt to assist a young baseball player, tending to him on the field. For Seo Do-young, the wait stretched on endlessly, feeling like an entire hour had already passed. Despite her growing impatience, a deeper contemplation lingered within her. She had initially imagined these private lessons would be far more casual. Yet, as she watched the boy practice batting under the man's watchful eye, she realized their training was intensely serious. A soft smile touched her lips as she found the diligent young players utterly endearing. A wave of nostalgia washed over her, recalling a time when she, too, embodied that youthful spirit. A melancholic sigh escaped her, as her thoughts drifted deeper into a past that felt increasingly distant. Overwhelmed by the quiet, Seo Do-young slowly drifted off to sleep. Then, a grand, brightly lit baseball stadium emerged under the dark night sky. A warm voice from her past asked if she was excited, a familiar hand gently holding hers. Young Seo Do-young, brimming with childlike conviction, declared her absolute certainty that the unicorns would win. Her father laughed, confidently assuring her that with her presence, victory was guaranteed. As the crowd roared, her father asked if they should join the cheering, and young Do-young eagerly assented. Even in her sleep, the name, Dad, escaped her lips, a deep longing evident in her murmured breath. She began to stir, slowly pulling herself from the depths of her slumber. She jolted awake, startled to realize she had completely dozed off. As she came to, she noticed the jacket she now held in her hands. With a puzzled expression, she wondered aloud whose jacket this could be. "That's my jacket," the man stated, explaining he'd covered her to prevent a cold, which utterly startled Seo Do-young. Deeply embarrassed, Seo Do-young bowed, profusely apologizing for her ungraceful slumber. He reassured her not to worry, casually mentioning he had merely been finishing up some paperwork. Seo Do-young confessed her prior misunderstanding about the lesson field, to which the man explained his indoor facility had unfortunately gone under during the pandemic. He declared his unwavering commitment to his students, explaining that even if his business failed, he would see them through to the very end. Seo Do-young nervously questioned the legality of conducting lessons in a public park, wondering if it was truly permissible. He simply explained that since he charged no lesson fees, there was absolutely no problem. "You don't take any money?" Seo Do-young shrieked, jokingly accusing him of hating money as he calmly closed his laptop. He explained that he couldn't bring himself to accept money from students who were learning in such poor conditions on a plain, unfurnished field. He saw himself as simply taking responsibility for the children he had begun teaching, committed to seeing them through to the very end. "Amazing!" Seo Do-young exclaimed, enthusiastically proposing they sign the contract immediately, eager to secure him as Cheongil High's perfect head coach. The man, however, regarded her with a serious, perceptive gaze. He pointedly recalled Cheongil High's use of an interim teacher as coach last year, prompting a nervous hiccup from Seo Do-young. He sharply deduced that her sudden call, after a year, surely meant every other coaching candidate had already turned her down, triggering another series of nervous hiccups. Seo Do-young stammered through a flustered explanation of her offer, only for the man to cut through her words, pointing out they had only just met that day. Then, with a sly gleam, he simply stated his counteroffer, double it. His hand playfully formed a peace sign, symbolizing his demand for double the pay. He then explicitly stated his condition: he would sign if paid double the original salary, leaving Seo Do-young utterly shocked. Her internal monologue swung wildly from outrage at his demand to a reluctant acknowledgement of its difficulty, even questioning her own comic bubble. Deeply bowing, Seo Do-young desperately pleaded with him to accept a lower salary, explaining that doubling it was simply impossible for Cheongil High. In that case, he conceded, "I'll sign for the original salary," completely stunning Seo Do-young. Yet, he then revealed he had one more condition, filling Seo Do-young with immediate anxiety. His condition was simple: he wanted to bring one of his current lesson students with him to Cheongil High. Seo Do-young stammered in disbelief, wondering if he meant one of the actual little children from his lessons. He challenged her, asking if it was a problem, confidently stating he had trained the player exceptionally well. Seo Do-young hesitated, finding the idea of an elementary schooler slightly concerning, yet then recalled rumors of a 13-year-old attending Cheongil High. A clear chime suddenly rang out, making Seo Do-young snap to attention. The system boldly instructed her to agree and secure the signature, prompting Seo Do-young's surprised, eager exclamation. Strategically, Seo Do-young decided to agree for now, her immediate goal to simply get his signature on the contract. The man signed the paper, telling Seo Do-young to stand up because people were staring, then with a smirk, he confessed, that was the idea. As a system notification confirmed her completion of the head-hunting quest, Seo Do-young let out a triumphant cheer. When the system offered to use her scouting skill, Seo Do-young eagerly commanded it to activate, ready to check his stats. No way! Seo Do-young exclaimed in utter disbelief, seeing a B grade ranking appear beside him. Seo Do-young beamed, admitting she would have been thrilled with a C grade, but a B grade was utterly fantastic, while the man calmly suggested she return to Earth. Another system notification suddenly flashed, announcing a quest reward had arrived, startling Seo Do-young. Seo Do-young reacted with profound astonishment, realizing she had also received a B-grade player as a quest reward. As the man suggested they check on his student, Seo Do-young suddenly gasped, wondering if that student was the B-grade player she had just acquired. Who cares if he's in elementary school if he's B-grade? Seo Do-young declared with a mischievous laugh, convinced they could simply enroll him in high school if he was tall enough. The man simply pointed and said, "That's him," as Seo Do-young instantly recognized the person. She gasped in utter shock, it was the part-timer she had met earlier. The man threw up his hands in exasperation, pointing out he had only said lesson student, never once specifying an elementary schooler. The man then formally introduced his student, Kim Si-hyung, revealing him to be 17 years old this year. And there was something more he needed to convey. As he powerfully wound up for a throw, he declared that among all the students he had ever taught, this student possessed the absolute greatest talent, punctuated by the force of his throw. Seo Do-young watched, utterly stunned by the powerful pitch as her pitching analysis skill automatically activated. Overwhelmed, she could barely articulate her disbelief at what she had just witnessed. She gasped, questioning if such impressive pitch statistics could truly belong to a mere high schooler. "This is B-grade," she exclaimed, utterly disbelieving that such an incredible pitch could only warrant such a rank. She realized that a pitcher capable of such a throw was truly exceptional. He unleashed another powerful pitch, his form an intense display of raw strength. Her scouting skill was once again in active use. Seo Do-young emphatically declared that a pitcher like this was a rarity even in the professional leagues, as the ball thundered through the air. Suddenly, a jarring error message flashed across her vision, then again, signifying something was deeply wrong. Seo Do-young struggled to process the situation, unable to articulate the depth of her disbelief. The system delivered a stunning verdict: it cannot measure his abilities because her own scout grade was too low, leaving Seo Do-young utterly astonished. Seo Do-young's mind reeled as a shocking realization hit her. She couldn't believe the app's limitations, unable to scout the player right when it mattered most. The young man, still an enigma, was the very subject of her intense frustration. As the young man pitched with intense focus, the system declared his abilities unmeasurable due to a low scout grade. Seo Do-young's mind raced, realizing the system's error meant his skill surpassed even her highest previous scouting capabilities. The implication struck her like lightning: this player was astonishingly beyond B-grade. The man with dark hair concluded their pitching practice for the day, and another young man readily agreed, all while Seo Do-young observed them in the distance. He casually mentioned that Seo Do-young was from Cheongil High, then announced his decision to also become their head coach, surprising the other young man. Kim Si-hyung then introduced himself directly, asserting that he would also be enrolling at Cheongil High. Seo Do-young nervously returned his handshake, her internal thoughts consumed by the fact that he was a player of such an exceptional grade. Seo Do-young abruptly grabbed Kim Si-hyung's arm, startling him. She excitedly exclaimed over his impressive muscle tone and built physique, making Kim Si-hyung visibly uncomfortable as he protested her intrusive touching. Seo Do-young sheepishly apologized, claiming it was just a habit, prompting a skeptical thought from the unnamed young man. Seo Do-young's thoughts turned analytical, calculating his height and pitching speed to confirm he simply could not be a mere B-grade player. She pondered the conundrum, then a system message confirmed she had obtained a B-grade player quest reward, making her question if it referred to Kim Si-hyung at all. A wave of bewilderment washed over Seo Do-young as she struggled to process this new information. A hand subtly adjusted its grip on a baseball bat, signaling preparation. The unnamed young man prepared to throw the baseball with focused intensity. Seo Do-young cried out in sudden, shocked realization. Her thoughts confirmed it, he wasn't a B-grade pitcher after all. Seo Do-young then gasped, realizing with intense clarity that he was a B-grade batter, as Kim Si-hyung took a powerful stance with his bat. The unnamed young man offered to demonstrate Kim Si-hyung's hitting skills, framing it as an entry test. Seo Do-young reacted with unbridled joy, internally convinced she had hit an absolute jackpot. Her heart pounded with anticipation as she realized she was essentially recruiting both a top-tier pitcher and a B-grade batter simultaneously. As expected, the app confirmed his B-grade batter status, revealing detailed statistics for his contact, power, defense, discipline, and base running. The unnamed young man, focused and serious, announced he would take a few quick swings. Seo Do-young eagerly agreed, her excitement palpable. Her thoughts thrummed with anticipation, wondering just how formidable Kim Si-hyung would be at the plate as the unnamed young man prepared to pitch. Kim Si-hyung's focused gaze intensified, his red eyes burning with concentration. His hands gripped the bat tightly, reflecting his deep resolve. Poised and ready, Kim Si-hyung held his batting stance, his eyes glowing with an intense focus. The scene shifted to the quiet glow of an urban residential area at night. Seo Do-young finally collapsed onto her bed, expressing profound exhaustion after the day's events. She lay on her side, eyes closed, resting after her long day, deep in thought. Her pensive posture implied her mind was still at work, even as she rested. A flicker of hope ignited within Seo Do-young's mind, considering a new possibility. Her hand reached towards the ceiling, a symbolic gesture as she envisioned winning the national championship. She recognized that while the team only had 2 players exceeding average, No Juk-young and Kim Si-hyung were unequivocally national-level hitters. She was amazed to realize that Kim Si-hyung's pitching skill was so extraordinary, her app couldn't even measure it. With renewed purpose, Seo Do-young sat up, her eyes gleaming with determination as she focused on her phone. She proudly presented the High School Baseball Tycoon app on her phone screen. Seo Do-young decided to systematically review all the app's functions she had discovered so far. She explained the card system, which allowed her to instantly view a player's grade and stats. Seo Do-young then described her exclusive skills, scouting, batting analysis, and pitching analysis, which gave her comprehensive insight into players. Another surprising discovery about the app was yet to be revealed. Seo Do-young excitedly revealed that players themselves could earn skills, not just her. A system message explained that skills could be acquired through player growth or quest completion, prompting a frustrated cry from Seo Do-young about simply giving them out for free. Seo Do-young processed the information, then turned her attention to the app's next function. She stared in dismay at the supporters screen, aghast at the paltry 3 supporters and minuscule 1,601 in sponsorship, convinced it was a bug. Seo Do-young sighed in despair, lamenting that even though their baseball team was on the verge of being shut down, such minimal support would be utterly useless. The system coolly stated that team performance dictated supporter gain, which only vexed Seo Do-young further, making her question how they could achieve good results without support. The system then instructed her on using the training room to improve player stats, noting that progress would be made simply by assigning players time there. Seo Do-young's expression clouded with worry as she hinted at a problem. She discovered a prominent padlock icon, indicating a locked feature within the app. Seo Do-young's alarm escalated as she found all app functions locked, demanding an explanation. The system calmly explained that app functions were applied dynamically, based on the team's current situation. Seo Do-young reacted with a groan of shock and frustration as the system revealed Cheongil High's baseball team possessed no training facilities. Indignant, Seo Do-young confronted the app, demanding why it couldn't simply conjure a training room if it could create holographic player cards. The system offered a vague, non-committal response, prompting a sarcastic apology from Seo Do-young. Seo Do-young collapsed onto her bed, sighing in resignation as she realized that beyond player development, managing facilities would also fall to her. Shaking off her discouragement, Seo Do-young resolved to tackle the problem head-on, deciding she would ask her uncle to help set up a training room first thing tomorrow. Principal Kim Min-sik tearfully confessed the school's dire financial state, stating they had no money. The unnamed young man confronted Principal Kim Min-sik, shocked to learn the team had been operating without a training room, to which the principal admitted they had only a tiny, old container before. Principal Kim Min-sik then revealed the shocking truth that the training room, and everything else, had been completely washed away by the floods last year, stunning Seo Do-young. Principal Kim Min-sik apologetically expressed regret to the unnamed young man, now identified as Coach Park, for exposing him to such a mess on his very first day. Principal Kim Min-sik revealed that every other coaching applicant had fled upon seeing the school, making Coach Park's presence somewhat ironic, while Seo Do-young remained silent, processing. Coach Park, growing concerned, then inquired about the existence of any other essential facilities, like locker rooms, lounges, or a coach's office. Principal Kim Min-sik tearfully repeated that all facilities were washed away, leading Seo Do-young to the shocking realization that everything had been housed in those temporary containers. Seo Do-young and Coach Park simultaneously arrived at the indignant realization that they had both been thoroughly scammed. Seo Do-young frantically insisted on the urgent restoration of facilities before the new term, demanding to know if the school budget could cover the costs. Principal Kim Min-sik sadly explained that despite his own desire to restore the facilities, the financial situation was far more dire than it appeared. Seo Do-young reacted with outrage, stomping her foot, upon learning that the entire year's budget had already been depleted before the school year even began, demanding to know where all the money went. Principal Kim Min-sik regretfully reiterated that all the funds had been lost in the flood. Principal Kim Min-sik explained that the budget only allowed for minimal repairs, shocking Coach Park and driving Seo Do-young to tears, who bitterly accused him of having it backward. Seo Do-young collapsed onto the ground in utter frustration, lamenting the futility of having the app if its main features were unusable. Coach Park earnestly stressed the critical importance of a training room, arguing that player performance could not improve without strength training. Principal Kim Min-sik agreed but trailed off, expressing his persistent worry over the cost. Coach Park offered a hopeful solution, suggesting he knew a gym owner who could provide used equipment cheaply, igniting immense excitement in Seo Do-young. Principal Kim Min-sik inquired about the budget required, and Coach Park estimated around 3 million won for the basics, which still weighed heavily on the principal's worried mind. Coach Park then proposed raising sponsorship from local fans, a suggestion that surprised Principal Kim Min-sik and thrilled Seo Do-young. Seo Do-young screamed in distress, prompting Coach Park to mistakenly assume her tears were from being moved by the thought of fan support. Seo Do-young furiously refuted the idea of fans, angrily revealing they only had 3 in total, much to Principal Kim Min-sik's disbelief. With a cunning glint in her eye, Seo Do-young proposed a new plan, squeezing money from the board of directors. Seo Do-young confidently argued that requesting an additional budget from the board would surely yield something, as they wouldn't abandon the team, but Principal Kim Min-sik responded with hesitant apprehension. Principal Kim Min-sik reiterated that a substantial amount of money had already been spent, hinting at deeper financial complications. He then brought up an even more significant obstacle, the chairwoman. Principal Kim Min-sik regretfully revealed that the chairwoman harbored a strong dislike for the baseball team. Seo Do-young sat on the school steps, lost in thought, contemplating the true state of the baseball team's finances. A grim realization dawned on Seo Do-young as she discovered the team had already exhausted its entire budget, prompting her to search for a financial section within the app. The app's financial management screen confirmed her fears, displaying a shocking zero balance and revealing how quickly their funds had vanished. Disbelief morphed into desperation as Seo Do-young wondered how she could possibly manage a team with absolutely no funds. The system issued a stark warning that depleted finances would inevitably crush player morale and performance, a fact Seo Do-young sarcastically conceded. The ultimate penalty for the team's financial crisis was then revealed: the app would initiate a game over state, shutting down completely. Seo Do-young fiercely rejected the dire warning, vowing not to lose another team after the demise of the unicorns. She declared with unwavering resolve that the journey for Cheongil High had only just begun. Seo Do-young stood firm, refusing to let their story end in such a pathetic game over. Her determination burned bright as she mentally strategized, ready to beg for donations or threaten the board to secure the crucial operating funds. Principal Kim Min-sik trembled, preparing to explain a complex situation to Seo Do-young. Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei, the influential chairwoman of Cheongil High School, inquired coolly about the principal's needs. Principal Kim Min-sik, filled with shame, began to make his uncomfortable request. Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei cut him off sharply, expressing her irritation that he was raising the topic of the baseball team again, reminding him they had already received their budget. Sweat beaded on Principal Kim Min-sik's face as he stumbled through an explanation of unforeseen expenses like fence repairs and staff salaries. Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei slammed her fist down, demanding he speak clearly, prompting the principal to blurt out a desperate plea for additional funds to repair washed-away facilities. Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei scoffed, calling the principal audacious for failing to manage the team after delaying its shutdown. Principal Kim Min-sik bowed deeply, taking full responsibility and desperately pleading for repair funds, insisting the students deserved a proper training environment. Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei reminded him angrily of his past promise that the baseball club would bring honor to the school. With a forceful grip on his face, Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei shouted, questioning if he had meant dishonor instead of honor. She listed the team's abysmal record, disdainfully questioning what honor such a consistently failing team could possibly bring. Principal Kim Min-sik clung to Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei, violently pushed away as he desperately begged for just one more chance. With tears streaming down his face, Principal Kim Min-sik promised to restore the facilities and run the team smoothly if only they received 5 million won, pleading for trust. Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei angrily shoved the principal away, lambasting him as shameless for his age. She kicked the principal, emphatically telling him to get lost. Catching her breath, Chairwoman Jang Myo-kei adjusted her dress, her annoyance evident. After a moment of thought, Chairwoman Jang Myo-K mused that 5 million won might be arranged, making Principal Kim Min-sik gasp in surprise. She then stated that a proper price must be paid, leaving Principal Kim Min-sik confused and concerned. A mouth suggestively licked its lips. Chairwoman Jang Myo-K stood tall and intimidating, preparing to state her condition. The principal's office, where crucial decisions would be made, awaited. Seo Do-young and Kim Si-hyun reacted with surprised delight to the news of secured funding and plans for training room restoration. Principal Kim Min-sik hesitantly confirmed that he had indeed received a promise for the funds. Seo Do-young excitedly celebrated, believing the team was safe from game over, but Kim Si-hyun quickly cautioned her not to rejoice yet. Kim Si-hyun's concerned expression hinted at an unspoken condition hanging heavy in the air. Kim Si-hyun noticed the principal trembling, making Principal Kim Min-sik flustered. The principal revealed that the operating funds came with a significant condition. Seo Do-young's expression turned to worry, suspecting the condition might be something unusual. Principal Kim Min-sik introduced the topic of Baeknang High, which Kim Si-hyun immediately recognized as the strongest high school baseball team in the country. Principal Kim Min-sik nervously revealed the condition, a practice game against the formidable Baeknang High in just 2 weeks, eliciting a shocked reaction from Seo Do-young. The principal explained that the extra budget would only be granted after the game against Baeknang High. Kim Si-hyun expressed relief that it was just a practice game, optimistically viewing it as a valuable experience despite the formidable opponent. Principal Kim Min-sik then hesitantly asked if they were expected to lose, to which Kim Si-hyun admitted that beating Baeknang High was realistically impossible. Seo Do-young firmly stated their objective was to win, surprising Kim Si-hyun. Principal Kim Min-sik suddenly shouted, emphasizing the absolute necessity of winning, shocking both Seo Do-young and Kim Si-hyun. Principal Kim Min-sik's face twisted in horror as he began to reveal the grave consequence of losing the practice game. He dramatically declared that failure against Baeknang High would lead to the permanent shutdown of the baseball club. A digital quest interface appeared, outlining the declaration of war mission, confirming that the game over state awaited if they failed. Seo Do-young's eyes widened in utter horror at the realization that a loss against Baeknang High truly meant game over. The empty office felt quiet, signifying a shift in focus. A document titled Cheongil High School, Science Specialization, Rebranding Plan lay on a desk as Chairwoman Jang Myo-K's voice began a phone conversation. Chairwoman Jang Myo-K, looking smug, thanked the person on the other end for so willingly agreeing to her sudden request. She sternly corrected her caller, revealing her true intentions were different as she addressed the principal of Baeknang High School. Chairwoman Jang Myo-K delivered precise instructions regarding the upcoming practice game. With a cold, menacing expression, she instructed to utterly crush their opponent. A few days passed, under a bright, clear sky. Seo Do-young, looking dejected, said goodbye to her mother as she left for work. Seo Do-young's mother worried about her daughter's recent somber mood, wondering if she truly disliked her job so much. Seo Do-young leaned against the elevator door, feeling the weight of her worries. She fretted internally about the overwhelming difficulty of their first game, the immense pressure of the club's fate resting on it. As the elevator doors began to open, Seo Do-young tried to rally herself. Seo Do-young pumped herself up with fierce determination, believing the high school baseball Tycoon app would empower her against even the country's strongest team. With a sudden burst of energy and a loud cheer, Seo Do-young exited the elevator, startling 2 unseen individuals. An aerial view showed residential rooftops under the bright morning sky. Kim Si-hyun left his apartment, assuring an unseen person that he could manage on his own. He stepped outside and shielded his eyes from the blinding morning sun. With a determined expression, Kim Si-hyun acknowledged that busy times were ahead. The subway car rattled rhythmically. A young man in a suit was slouched, seemingly asleep, on the rattling subway train. The subway display indicated their arrival at Cheongil Station as the train continued to shake. The young man remained calm, eyes closed, listening to his earphones on the rattling subway. A woman's foot gently tapped the young man's shoe. The young man's eye slowly opened, indicating he was waking up or noticing the tap. The young man looked up with a confused expression as an off-panel woman asked if he was a new Cheongil High student. A new piece of information was about to be revealed. A confident woman in a school uniform, with long dark hair, smiled and pointed, telling someone they had to get off the train. The indistinct chatter of a busy subway station marked the rhythm of a new day. A green transit card clicked against the scanner, a familiar sound of daily commute. Kim Si-hyun thanked Seo Do-young for waking him, who replied with a curious, Seo Do-young sweetly dismissed her action, explaining it would have been stranger to ignore someone so obviously headed to the same school. Seo Do-young correctly identified him as a freshman by his green name tag, which Kim Si-hyun confirmed with a hint of surprise. Seo Do-young encouraged him to speak comfortably, revealing her own freshman status, and then confidently addressed Kim Si-hyun by name. Kim Si-hyung responded with a slightly bewildered, "Ah, I see," as if processing the interaction. Seo Do-young fell into thoughtful silence, perhaps noticing his reaction. Kim Si-hyung remained silently confused, unsure how to proceed. A palpable awkwardness settled between Kim Si-hyung and Seo Do-young as they stood lost in their own thoughts. Seo Do-young gently prompted him, pointing out that one usually asks for the other person's name in such situations. When Kim Si-hyung finally asked, Seo Do-young serenely declined to reveal it. Kim Si-hyung looked determined, ready to reveal his own intentions. Seo Do-young, however, playfully interjected with a flirtatious suggestion to follow each other on Instagram. Kim Si-hyung's admission that he didn't use social media led Seo Do-young to realize why he hadn't recognized her. Seo Do-young panicked as two voices excitedly identified her as Choi Yuna, realizing they had been spotted. Kim Si-hyung remained bewildered by the sudden commotion. Excited fans loudly expressed their adoration for Choi Yuna, demanding a picture. Seo Do-young, in a frantic rush, grabbed Kim Si-hyung's arm and urged him to run, catching him by surprise. Kim Si-hyung responded by asserting he knew a faster route to school, rushing them forward. The pursuing fans yelled questions about Kim Si-hyung and compliments about Seo Do-young, intensifying the chaotic chase. Seo Do-young and Kim Si-hyung's clasped hands symbolized their urgent escape. They continued to run together, their momentum building with each step. Their destination, Cheongil High School, appeared under a clear blue sky, a new chapter awaiting. An outdoor assembly area, set with chairs before a stage, awaited the day's ceremony. A voice explained that the introductions would take place in the auditorium, as the field was being prepared. Seo Do-young, filled with enthusiasm, dramatically introduced the new Cheongil High baseball team manager, Park Gwang-moo. The players reacted with surprised whispers and awe at the new manager. Seo Do-young beamed with excitement as she addressed the assembled team. She struck a confident pose, ready for her next declaration. Seo Do-young challenged the team's lack of energy, playfully asking if they wanted to see real fire. Manager Park Gwang-moo then introduced himself, sharing his blunt initial assessment of the team after observing their workouts. Manager Park Gwang-moo declared the Cheongil High baseball team was currently the worst, shocking the players into stunned silence. He continued his harsh critique, enumerating the team's worn-out equipment and insufficient support. The manager concluded that the team felt more like a casual club than a serious baseball team. A red-haired player angrily reacted to the first impression, while manager Park Gwang-moo calmly reiterated his observation. The player angrily challenged the manager to speak plainly about his true feelings. The player indignantly interpreted the manager's words as a direct insult to the team. Manager Park Gwang-moo continued speaking, about to deliver yet another stark truth. The red-haired player retaliated with an insult about the new staff, while Seo Do-young comically interjected that she was cute though. Another player, worried, tried to calm the angry red-haired player down. Manager Park Gwang-moo sternly stared down the angry player, asking if his assessment was incorrect and what his problem was. The players murmured among themselves, indicating they knew the controversial circumstances of the new staff's arrival. A player exposed Seo Do-young's connection to the principal, causing her to react defensively to being called Coach Seo Do-young. The player then criticized manager Park Gwang-moo's lack of team experience, calling him a total rookie, but the manager remained calm. The angry player indignantly accused the parachuted new staff of hypocrisy for criticizing them. Seo Do-young knelt, defeated and dejected by the player's sharp accusations. Seo Do-young admitted the truth of the player's words, acknowledging her reliance on her uncle for her position. She then earnestly defended manager Park Gwang-moo, highlighting his superior qualifications compared to her own. The red-haired player defiantly asked if his rudeness was out of line, clearly unrepentant. He passionately defended the team against perceived disrespect, expressing fierce resentment towards the new manager. Manager Park Gwang-moo calmly asked if the player was offended, then challenged him to try and remove him. The manager clarified that he had no intention of removing the player, setting a different tone. Manager Park Gwang-moo leaned forward, explaining he had merely stated his observations about the team's current situation, not his dislike for Cheongil High. A thoughtful player acknowledged the manager's rudeness but charitably assumed it stemmed from his care for the team. Seo Do-young admitted her lack of team management experience but asserted her strong qualifications as a former pro and personal coach. The thoughtful player understood the team's uneasiness, acknowledging their doubts about his ability to fix their problems. Manager Park Gwang-moo prepared to ask the team a crucial question. He urged them to answer honestly and sincerely from their hearts. Manager Park Gwang-moo then posed a profound question to the team: is it fun? The players murmured among themselves, confused by the unexpected inquiry about baseball being fun. The manager reiterated his demand for their honest answer. He made it clear he would not offer empty promises of championships or professional careers. Instead, manager Park Gwang-moo promised to ensure they could play baseball until graduation, looking back on their high school days with no regrets. This, the manager declared, was the genuine promise he, the rookie manager, offered them. He then prepared to ask his critical question once more. The manager repeated his challenge, "Do you enjoy playing baseball?" The team responded with a resounding and enthusiastic yes. Players cheered, confirming their enjoyment and passion for the sport. The red-haired player, however, dismissively grumbled that the speech was just generic encouragement, basically saying, "Let's do our best." Seo Do-young startlingly appeared beside the red-haired player, vouching for manager Park's ability and startling him. Seo Do-young, with determined conviction, asserted their seriousness and dedication to the team, despite any shortcomings. The red-haired player, with grudging resignation, agreed to give them a chance, while Seo Do-young welcomed his cooperation. Seo Do-young painfully squeezed the red-haired player's hand, causing him to cry out in surprise. Seo Do-young's sly smile hinted at a menacing warning about her strict belief in hierarchy. She violently grabbed the player, threatening to reveal why she was known as the rabid dog of the unicorns, if he disrespected her again. The player gasped in pain from Seo Do-young's aggressive grip. The red-haired player lay in pain on the floor as Seo Do-young showed concern, while manager Park Gwang-moo calmly noted his own mellowing. Manager Park Gwang-moo made another serious announcement: a practice game was scheduled in just 2 weeks. The players were shocked to learn their opponent would be Baeknang High, the nation's strongest team. Manager Park Gwang-moo pondered aloud why Baeknang High would agree to play them, given their team's low reputation. Seo Do-young decided to withhold the information about the high stakes of the game, fearing it would kill the team's morale. The red-haired player expressed concern about the short notice and their incomplete roster, questioning if they could even field a team. Manager Park Gwang-moo ironically pointed out that their only current pitcher, Ja-kyung, was barely deserving of the title. Seo Do-young dramatically announced she had brought in another, even more special, parachute player. A hand gestured, inviting the new player to make his grand entrance. Seo Do-young triumphantly introduced Cheongil High's new face, Kim Si-hyung. The empty stage waited expectantly for the new player's appearance. Manager Park Gwang-moo and Seo Do-young watched, awaiting Kim Si-hyung's arrival. Manager Park Gwang-moo reacted with confusion as Kim Si-hyung failed to appear as expected. Seo Do-young panicked, realizing her #1 jewel was nowhere to be found. The scene shifted to a city street, indicating a change of location. Modern building facades rose under a bright sky, framing the urban landscape. Kim Si-hyung asked Seo Do-young to hold still in a cramped space, prompting her embarrassed apology. Seo Do-young expressed her utter exasperation with the predicament. Seo Do-young wondered aloud how they had ended up in such a frustratingly tight situation with Kim Si-hyung. The bustling city blurred as 2 young men sprinted through it, frantically scanning their surroundings. The blonde young man frantically questioned their direction, while his companion demanded to know where she had vanished. The blonde young man then reported, with slight confusion, that he could still faintly smell Yuna's perfume. Seo Do-young mused pensively, wondering if she had already passed them by. The man with dark hair seriously conceded that it seemed entirely possible she had already passed. Seo Do-young let out a relieved sigh, sincerely apologizing for dragging him into her predicament, to which he remained silent. He then, with genuine seriousness, interrogated her, asking if she was tangled with a gang or simply owed money, earning a shocked exclamation from Seo Do-young. Seo Do-young burst into embarrassed laughter, indignantly accusing him of watching too many dramas and assuring him it was nothing like that, okay? She then explained that the pursuers were simply fans who recognized her, expressing surprise they had found her so far from any broadcast station. He tilted his head in utter confusion, questioning the very concepts of fans and broadcast stations. Seo Do-young dramatically cleared her throat, preparing for a big reveal. With a theatrical flourish, Seo Do-young grandly declared that truth is always a lie, and there was no mystery her girl detective persona couldn't solve. An awkward silence settled heavily between them after her grand declaration. Seo Do-young expressed her thoughtful concern that he truly didn't know her, hinting at her past fame, then resolved to try an even more universally famous persona. Seo Do-young, utterly frustrated, vented her anger with a truly childish insult, "You poop butt dummy." The awkward silence descended once again, even heavier after her comical outburst. Seo Do-young, surprised and annoyed, incredulously asked if he lived without ever watching TV, to which he simply replied that his family didn't own one. He then smoothly presented his smartphone, explaining he was that kind of person who used modern tech instead. He then discovered on his phone that former child actor Choi Yuna, now a singer, was indeed a famous person, prompting his surprised question, which Seo Do-young modestly confirmed she kind of was. The man smirked, amused, teasing her that openly admitting one's fame was actually far more embarrassing than she'd think. Seo Do-young let out a surprised "oh," as something caught her eye. He calmly pointed out a lipstick mark, implying it had transferred to him while they were hiding, prompting an embarrassed, ah, of realization from Seo Do-young. He repeatedly and emphatically reassured her not to worry about it, stressing the point, seriously, don't worry about it. He then responded with a puzzled, huh, at her continued silence. Seo Do-young then, with a mischievous smile, began to hint at the true nature of their interaction. With a confident, flirtatious wink, she declared their entire interaction as fan. Ser. Vice. Seo Do-young quickly pointed out a cat, which was contentedly grooming itself. Ignoring his protests, Seo Do-young excitedly insisted they needed a picture, snapping away as the cat let out a small meow. Seo Do-young observed with serene delight that the beautiful cherry blossoms were already in full bloom. With a cheerful and playful enthusiasm, Seo Do-young eagerly asked him to take her picture, despite his hesitant, hey. Seo Do-young then exclaimed with pure, unadulterated excitement, wow. Tteokbokki. Seo Do-young warmly suggested they eat the tteokbokki before leaving, promising it was her treat, and he could only resignedly agree. He reacted with sudden anxiety, trying to interject with a flustered, and no, that's not it dash. He anxiously questioned their schedule, asking if they were even going to school, to which Seo Do-young coyly responded with a challenging Seo Do-young slowly chewed, lost in thought, a hint of annoyance playing across her face. In the warm, inviting establishment, Seo Do-young, with a dismissive gesture, reluctantly questioned if they truly had to attend just the opening ceremony. The woman in an apron enthusiastically chimed in, declaring it a crime not to enjoy such a beautiful day, and that only an idiot would go to school. The man with dark hair gravely explained that while the entrance ceremony was one thing, his priority was submitting his baseball club application that very day. Seo Do-young gasped in utter shock, her eyes widening in sudden realization as she asked, "You're an athlete?" Seo Do-young then expressed worried concern about late baseball club members getting smacked with a bat, prompting his own panicked, "Oh no," before she promptly blamed him for not listening. He then, with a decisive gesture, realized the urgency, declaring there was no time to mess around and they needed to hurry to school. Seo Do-young politely held out her green card, asking for the tteokbokki to be rung up. The woman in the apron warmly informed her that they only accepted cash, not cards. Seo Do-young reacted with utter, sudden distress, realizing with dismay that she only possessed a card. He then subtly glanced at the now worried Seo Do-young, a serious expression on his face. The man with dark hair then looked with resolute determination. He then broke the tension, seriously asking, "How much is it?" The impressive, academic exterior of Cheongil High School rose into the bright sky. Seo Do-young let out an annoyed, geez, as she spotted the prominent, baseball club recruitment, sign at the school entrance. An off-panel baseball player lamented in disappointment that the entrance ceremony had already concluded. A female baseball player sat in utter despondency, convinced they were screwed. She expressed utter incredulity, her voice rising in shock, "You've got to be kidding me. Not a single person wants to join the team." The worried player reminded him it was still the first day, as Manager Park calmly tried to reassure her that applicants would surely come with time. She emphasized the urgent, critical reality that they had a practice game in just 2 weeks, demanding they reinforce the roster as soon as possible. She suddenly stood up with determined resolve, declaring they needed to be more aggressive in recruiting, though another player skeptically questioned if that was even possible as other students bustled past. A kind woman encouraged her son with warm support, and he confidently reassured her that he would do great in high school. With an energetic hee-hee, the baseball player blocked their path, stopping them abruptly and creating instant chaos, much to the woman's shocked, "What are you doing?" Manager Park, with a humorous desperation, tried to persuade the visibly terrified young man to play baseball, who nervously declined with a shaking and no thanks. The female baseball player, in a playful and manipulative tone, suggested that saying no wasn't nice, and that baseball would make him super popular and fit. The young man, trembling with comedic fear, desperately pleaded for someone to remove the persistent recruiter from his sight. Manager Park, with a humorous and sheepish air, quickly turned away, disclaiming any association with this person. The frantic mother attempted to push past the determined recruiter, who continued her fervent pitch that baseball would turn her son into an alpha male. Undeterred, she resolutely declared that they couldn't expect success on the first try, immediately setting her sights on the next target. She then excitedly turned, having spotted a new potential recruit. With an energetic, gleeful hee-hee, she forcefully blocked the path of the man with dark hair, stopping him cold. With tense anticipation, she challenged him directly, "Are you going to join the baseball club or not?" To which he calmly replied, "I will." She reacted with utter astonishment, shouting, "Huh? What did you say?" at his unexpected answer. He calmly confirmed his intention, "I said I'll play baseball," his hand revealing the quiet evidence of a life dedicated to rigorous training. He confidently continued to explain his deeper motivation. He purposefully revealed his true motivation: "I came to Cheongil High in the first place specifically to play baseball." The female baseball player sniffed, instantly overcome with highly emotional tears of joy. She ecstatically embraced him in a tight, chaotic hug, shouting, "Thank you for joining our baseball team," much to his shocked surprise. He flustered and frantically protested the sudden embrace, shouting, hang on. "What are you doing?" Then, with a sudden, intense roar, a black car rapidly approached. The man with dark hair exclaimed, "Whoa, you scared me," as the car screeched to a sudden, surprising halt, while the baseball player shouted, "What's with that car?" From inside the car, Manager Park casually apologized for the dramatic stop, attributing it to his driver being a bit of a speed junkie. Manager Park then, spotting the baseball club recruitment sign, casually asked if they were with the baseball club, noting it saved him the trouble of tracking them down. The female baseball player, wide-eyed and shocked, questioned if he was looking for the baseball club, a dawning, disbelieving realization creeping into her voice. Another young man then, with confident poise, confirmed, "That's right, I'm the one." He then dramatically declared himself the savior that keeps Cheongil High from being shut down, for all to hear. The female baseball player's heart pounded with ecstatic joy at the prospect of gaining 2 new members in one go. The legacy of Baek Myung-ho, once a celebrated new generation player and advisor for Sora High, now shaped Cheongil High's baseball team as their coach. An older man, recognizing him instantly, exclaimed that the young man standing before them was Baek Shin-sung, Baek Myung-ho's 17-year-old son, who confidently acknowledged his immediate recognition. The man with dark hair noted Baek Shin-sung's familiar face, confirming his fame in the youth leagues, a detail Seo Do-young admitted was outside her usual scouting area. Fumbling with excitement, Seo Do-young couldn't contain her immense expectations for the son of such a legendary figure. Beneath his calm exterior, Baek Shin-sung's eye twitched with an intense, almost irritated reaction. With a decisive push, Baek Shin-sung asserted that his father's identity was irrelevant, abruptly silencing Seo Do-young's expectations. He declared his individuality, emphasizing that his own identity remained distinct from his father's formidable shadow. Seo Do-young, acknowledging his truth, sheepishly apologized for her earlier overenthusiasm. From the sidelines, Kim Si-hyung tentatively interjected. He then, to everyone's shock, quietly asked when they could fill out the application forms. Flustered by his obvious forgetfulness, the man with dark hair swiftly pivoted, instructing both recruits to fill out their forms, though Seo Do-young playfully accused him of forgetting her. The signed applications for Cheongil High's baseball club now lay neatly stacked, marking the official start of their journey. Seo Do-young triumphantly declared 2 new recruits, holding aloft their completed forms like trophies. A digital chime announced a new player had joined, prompting Seo Do-young to remember her scouting task. With a confident wink, Seo Do-young prepared to use her scouting ability to appraise their new rookies. Her playful confidence quickly gave way to a surprised gasp. Kim Si-hyung's C-grade stats appeared, but Seo Do-young gasped in utter astonishment at his insane 85 defense. Kim Si-hyung introduced himself, formally declaring his versatility across all infield positions despite specializing in second base. The man with dark hair offered a contemplative critique, advising Kim Si-hyung to specialize in one defensive position before aspiring to be a utility player. Seo Do-young playfully thumped his side, scolding him for dismissing Kim Si-hyung's incredible 85 defense, much to his utter surprise. The man with dark hair then called for Baek Shin-sung to step forward, and Seo Do-young readied her scouting ability once more. A single sound of confusion escaped Seo Do-young's lips. Baek Shin-sung's shockingly low D+ stats were revealed, just as he insensitively remarked on Kim Si-hyung's height, eliciting an annoyed reply in Seo Do-young's utter disbelief. A baseball settled firmly into a glove. A player powerfully delivered a pitch. Another swung his bat with a powerful thwack. A player swiftly fielded a ground ball. Another slid dramatically to make a catch. A player executed an acrobatic jump and throw, grunting with immense effort. The other players, utterly impressed, marveled at the extraordinary and agile fielding, comparing his movements to a flying squirrel. The man with dark hair, surprised, questioned the identity of the skilled player, wondering if he was a new student or a transfer from another team. Seo Do-young proudly claimed the talented freshman as her own recruit, earning impressed praise for her former pro scouting abilities. Kim Si-hyung was officially accepted onto the team, expressing his profound gratitude with a deep bow. Reluctantly, the man with dark hair conceded, permitting Kim Si-hyung to be an infield utility player, as Seo Do-young grinned triumphantly and poked his side. Next, the man with dark hair called Baek Shin-sung, who confidently declared his readiness to perform. Another player pointed out the field's small size, questioning the feasibility of testing outfield defense and concluding it was only suitable for infield practice. The man with dark hair powerfully hit a baseball with his bat. Seo Do-young wrestled with conflicted thoughts, unsure how to process Baek Shin-sung's D+ grade, even if it was technically an improvement for their struggling team. Yet the son of the monstrous slugger Baek Myung-ho, with a mere D-grade, presented a bewildering paradox as he ran across the field. Baek Shin-sung confidently caught the ball, dismissing it as no problem. The man with dark hair commanded a throw from home to first, and Baek Shin-sung's focus sharpened instantly. The catcher challenged the rookie to deliver a single, precise throw, intensifying the anticipation. Baek Shin-sung acknowledged the challenge, readying himself for the momentous throw. He declared his intent to fulfill the command and unleashed a truly powerful throw. The sheer power of the throw left Seo Do-young breathless. The catcher forcefully received the powerful pitch. The other players expressed their utter awe at the throw's precise power, noting its accuracy even on the cramped field. The man with dark hair hit another baseball, sending it flying. Baek Shin-sung caught the ball with a surprised exclamation. With another focused effort, he caught the ball. He grunted with visible exertion, unleashing another powerful throw. The ball hurtled with incredible speed from his powerful throw. The baseball impacted the catcher's chest protector with significant force. A baseball slammed into the glove with powerful impact. The glove swallowed the ball with a strong, resounding thump. While his fielding was merely average, Seo Do-young realized his throwing arm possessed an astonishing, bewildering power. The man with dark hair coolly remarked that his arm should be perfectly loose now, a comment that startled Seo Do-young with its underlying implication. With a confident smile, Baek Shin-sung announced he was ready to pitch, signaling a new phase of his demonstration. The catcher noted Baek Shin-sung's multifaceted talent, questioning Seo Do-young's apparent surprise. The catcher asserted that Baek Shin-sung's imposing physique was clearly built for pitching. Seo Do-young gasped, a dawning, shocked realization connecting Baek Shin-sung's hidden potential to Kim Si-hyung's unexpected versatility. As Baek Shin-sung began his powerful pitching motion, Seo Do-young gasped in full realization, was he a two-way player? He released the ball with a powerful whoosh, his motion a blur of speed. Baek Shin-sung unleashed an incredibly fast pitch. The man with dark hair observed Baek Shin-sung's left-handed sidearm style, finding the young man quite intriguing, while Seo Do-young remained in stunned surprise. Seo Do-young was utterly shocked. The son of the monster slugger was a pitcher, not a batter, prompting her to use her scouting ability once more. The ball landed in the glove with a loud, forceful thwack. A smug smile crossed Seo Do-young's face as the results, as expected, confirmed her new hypothesis. Baek Shin-sung's pitching stats, a C+ grade with impressive velocity and break, solidified Seo Do-young's true expectations for Baek Myung-ho's son. A player marveled at the ball's movement, predicting a challenging future for left-handed batters facing such pitches. The catcher forcefully received another powerful pitch. The catcher, through his focused stance, noted the impressive, heavy quality of his pitches. Another forceful impact underlined the catcher's continued amazement at the impressive pitching. The catcher exclaimed that the ball was moving erratically and powerfully, before returning it with a firm throw. The man with dark hair pensively observed Baek Shin-sung's deceptively calm demeanor. Despite his calm exterior, the man realized, an imposing, wild nature lurked within his pitching. Baek Shin-sung, with a mischievous glint, declared his warm-up complete and offered to demonstrate his full-power pitching. A sudden system chime startled Seo Do-young. Clearly alarmed, Seo Do-young demanded clarification on his mention of full-power pitching. The system's sudden announcement that Baek Shin-sung was using a skill left Seo Do-young utterly speechless with disbelief. Seo Do-young recalled an earlier system message: a few players might already possess skills from the very beginning. She reflected on the possibility that some players possessed innate skills, independent of her unlocking abilities. The profound realization dawned on her: some players truly began with skills already activated, as Baek Shin-sung unleashed a glowing, skill-enhanced pitch. Seo Do-young realized that even without her intervention, the skill was present. A system message reappeared, confirming that a small percentage of players could inherently possess skills, just as it had stated before. The unexpected truth hit Seo Do-young: he had possessed a skill right from the very beginning. The system confirmed Baek Shin-sung was now using a skill. His confident smirk was underscored by the system's simple declaration: skill. A powerful impact marked the launch of his snake fastball, a pitch so wild it wiggled like its namesake, making contact nearly impossible. The ball's erratic path sent a jolt of shock through the catcher, tearing through the air. The pitch shrieked and swerved wildly through the air. The pitch slammed into the catcher's mitt with a forceful impact. A teammate stared, utterly astonished by the incredible, wiggling movement of the ball. He gasped, realizing the ball moved like a snake, while Seo Do-young internally recognized it as the snake fastball. Unlike standard fastballs, the snake fastball gained its unique tailing movement from a bend that extended its path, defying expectations. It truly earned its name, flying with a distinct wiggle, just like a snake. A profound realization rumbled through her: the son of the legendary monster batter, Baek Myung-ho, was proving to be an unexpected talent. The powerful pitch he hurled was one rarely seen from any pitcher, slamming through the air. The pitching analysis confirmed impressive velocity and spin rate, indicating excellent quality for a freshman. The man with dark hair gravely assessed the pitcher as a challenging left-handed sidearm wild pitcher with dirty pitch types that would make him difficult to face. Seo Do-young enthusiastically affirmed the pitcher's trickiness for opponents, even envisioning a strong synergy with the defensive skills of Go Min-young. Seo Do-young quickly corrected herself, realizing the pitcher's difficulty wasn't just for opposing teams. His imposing presence loomed, making him a tricky challenge for their team as well. A noisy chorus of players excitedly declared it the most amazing and unique pitch they had ever witnessed. The blonde-haired young man smugly informed the astonished seniors he had only been throwing lightly, prompting gasps and awe about Baek Myung-go's son. The red-haired young man angrily dismissed the pitch, slamming his fist in frustration, declaring its quality meaningless without proper control within the strike zone. He coolly reiterated his casual effort, assuring his senior he pitched far better in actual games. Another player nervously tried to de-escalate, reminding the fuming Tae-young that they should be thankful for a pitcher like Shin-sung, given their team's prior lack of talent. The red-haired player, still confused, questioned why someone of his skill level would choose Cheongil High over numerous other offers. He nonchalantly rattled off a list of prestigious schools, casually counting them on his fingers. The other players were utterly dumbfounded, unable to comprehend why he would forsake such esteemed institutions for their struggling team. A sly smirk played across his lips. He declared that to truly shine, one needed a dark canvas, and thus, the dark and gloomy Cheongil High was absolutely perfect. The players reacted with confused indignance to being called dark and gloomy, before a whispered admission confirmed their status as the perennial last-place team. He clicked his tongue, dismissing the idea of fighting for a regular spot on a prestigious team as a waste of time. He needed immediate, active play as a freshman. He wanted a team where he could immediately claim the title of ace, his conviction echoing with self-assured hum. Another player hesitantly acknowledged the audacious ambition, conceding that with Shin-sung's skills, it wasn't entirely unthinkable. The red-haired senior exploded in a furious outburst, demanding respect and defiantly declaring No Jak-young as their true ace, leaving the blonde-haired youth briefly stunned. The blonde-haired young man, unflustered, clarified that he was merely stating his ambition, not disrespecting the current ace. He firmly stated that an ace was determined solely by fair evaluation, meaning, quite simply, the more outstanding pitcher. Another player hesitantly stammered his agreement, acknowledging the undeniable truth: the most outstanding pitcher truly earned the title of ace. The man with dark hair arrived, wryly asking if their heated discussions meant they had already become close. The man with dark hair praised Baek Shin-sung's pitch, expressing confidence that he would be a great asset to their team. The blonde-haired young man politely thanked the director, but a telling, however, hung in the air. The director's blunt declaration, "You are not the ace," crushed the blonde-haired young man with a heavy shock. A stunned "pardon" gave way to a bewildered question: why was he not the ace? The director began to explain his vision, revealing the kind of ace he deemed truly suitable for their team. The director finished his statement with a flourish, declaring that another outstanding pitcher was his choice, as Seo Do-young mischievously peeked out. He reassured Shin-sung that his potential was limitless and he would still play a significant role, even if not as the ace. Seo Do-young, with a sly, knowing smile, interjected with her own dramatic HOWEVR, announcing her discovery of an incredible pitcher. Both the blonde-haired young man and a curious senior immediately burst out with questions, wondering if he was the incredible talent. Seo Do-young sighed mournfully, revealing that her incredible discovery was, unfortunately, currently missing. Her confusion quickly turned to a dawning realization. Seo Do-young gasped out Kim Si-hyung's name in surprise, while the director exclaimed with immense relief that he hadn't run away after all. Kim Si-hyung, looking weary and flushed, apologized for his lateness, citing an unexpected complication. The red-haired senior angrily recognized him as the special parachute, his patience snapping as he berated Kim Si-hyung for daring to be late on the first day. The red-haired youth aggressively challenged Kim Si-hyung's perceived arrogance, demanding if Cheongil High looked like a joke to him, only for Kim Si-hyung to coolly ask for his identity. The red-haired senior, seething with rage, asserted his position and declared his intense hatred for disrespect and tardiness, threatening violence. Seo Do-young frantically interjected, desperately pleading for calm amidst the escalating tension. Seo Do-young, flustered and apologetic, took the blame for Kim Si-hyung's lateness, fabricating a story about him helping her after an accident. The red-haired senior, unimpressed, furiously dismissed her as a meddling stranger, scoffing at her shoddy acting. His accusatory retort hung in the air, unfinished, fueled by disbelief. The red-haired youth was shaking violently, his fury palpable. In a completely out-of-place move, Seo Do-young suddenly begged for a signature, claiming her little brother was a fan, which Kim Si-hyung readily agreed to, even offering a photo. A chaotic flurry of exclamations erupted as the players, starstruck, realized it was the famous Choi Yuna. The revelation sent players sprawling in disbelief, some falling backward from the shock as they grappled with the impossible reality that Choi Yuna had enrolled in Cheongil High. Kim Si-hyung suddenly collapsed to his knees, utterly dazed. A concerned teammate helped the dazed Kim Si-hyung up, nervously apologizing for Taeyang's hot temper, which Kim Si-hyung brushed off as fine. Kim Si-hyung, now composed, extended his hand, issuing a direct challenge to the latecomer. He directly questioned the unseen individual, asking if they were the ace that woman had been so certain about. He waited, an intense curiosity burning in his gaze. As hands met, he declared his burgeoning curiosity. Their handshake tightened, a silent challenge passing between them as Kim Si-hyung voiced his desire to know just how outstanding their skills truly were. A flicker of determination crossed his eyes as he prepared to truly see. With an unwavering gaze, he issued an immediate challenge, right here, right now. A bright, magical shimmer suddenly filled the air. He proposed a definitive contest to settle the debate once and for all, who would truly be the team's ace. A sudden, urgent quest notification materialized with an imposing hum, outlining the ace selection match and its challenging conditions, including a skill unlock reward for the victor. A system notification detailing a sudden quest, ace selection match, appeared, promising to unlock one skill for the winning pitcher. Seo Do-young's breath caught, a sudden quest appearing before her, prompting a bewildered question about who would now be the ace of Cheongil High. The quest reward promised an unlocked skill for the winning pitcher, and Seo Do-young realized the incredible potential of that prize. What a stroke of luck, Seo Do-young realized, declaring her immediate intent to proceed with the quest and its blissful vision. A heavy presence landed as the older man intervened, demanding a halt and questioning their rush to determine the ace. As a player whispered about Baek Shin-sung establishing a hierarchy, the older man reprimanded Kim Si-hyung for his tardiness and immediate nerve battle, to which Kim Si-hyung offered a swift apology. The older man solemnly explained that an ace was the core and center of the team, a role not earned simply by outstanding skills alone. So that's why we should determine it, Seo Do-young declared, thudding her fist into the older man's arm with conviction. With earnest urgency, Seo Do-young insisted they needed to decide the team's ace, the true center, before the weekend league could even begin. A sly baseball player whispered persuasively to the director, suggesting it would be fine and emphasizing the necessity of testing the latecomer anyway. The older man hesitated, a thoughtful sweat bead forming, before acknowledging that Kim Si-hyung didn't exactly need a test, but then he added more. The baseball player with red hair thumped his fist with a twitch, eager to teach a lesson to both arrogant Baek Shin-sung and the latecomer who had parachuted in. The young man with black hair gasped silently, a flicker of apprehension in his eye. Kim Si-hyung, too, reacted with a startled, silent gasp. Since we were late, the young man with black hair sweated, anxiously wondering if the director intended to hit them with a bat. Seo Do-young batted her eyes, her voice sweet and nasal, suggesting it would be okay for the motivated kids, but Director Park just wanted her to stop. With a deep sigh of resignation, the older man conceded, "Fine, sounds good," much to Seo Do-young's excited surprise. However, the older man began, his expression growing stern. Kim Si-hyung, the older man declared decisively, "You are not pitching today," leaving Kim Si-hyung stunned to his core. "Huh? What does that mean?" the red-haired baseball player exclaimed in outrage, confused because he had suggested it to see Kim Si-hyung's skills, too. The older man stood firm, asserting that keeping time was the foundation of team activities, and anyone failing such basics had no right to be an ace. The baseball players whispered anxiously, realizing the director was incredibly strict, even though he too was a parachute, making them resolve to never be late. Kim Si-hyung declared the mood killed, though he secretly never thought he would lose anyway. The gray-haired baseball player swished his challenge, asking if the showdown was now just between him and the senior, or if the ace position would simply be yielded. No Juk-young stammered, unable to form a coherent response to the direct challenge. With a resolute thump, No Juk-young declared they absolutely had to compete, calling his challenger a punk. The red-haired baseball player forcefully asserted that senior Jak-young was the current ace, putting the other in the position of a challenger. No Jak-young hesitantly called out, "Tae-young," a note of concern in his voice. The red-haired baseball player then turned his inquiry to the latecomer, asking what he was good at besides pitching, to which Kim Si-hyung responded with surprise. Kim Si-hyung responded with a slightly awkward scratch of his ear, saying he didn't really mind any position. "Are you saying you're good at any position?" The red-haired player sweated with irritation. "The more you talk, the more I don't like you." Kim Si-hyung, eyes shaded by tension, quickly tried to clarify that that's not it. He revealed his truth, he had never actually played baseball, a statement that hung heavy in the air. Seo Do-young's expression was one of utter surprise. "Huh?" Seo Do-young uttered, eyes wide with disbelief. Seo Do-young burst into uncontrollable, exaggerated laughter, holding her stomach. Thinking Seo-young secretly had a good sense of humor, Seo Do-young questioned him again, "You've never played baseball?" A subtle slide of discomfort crossed Kim Si-hyung's face as Seo Do-young watched him, puzzled. Then, in a fiery burst, Seo Do-young exploded, questioning how he hadn't played when she'd seen him pitch and hit a ball with her own eyes. Kim Si-hyung flinched, sheepishly explaining that his only experience was throwing and hitting balls at the Mr.'s Baseball Academy. As the red-haired player expressed disappointment over the special parachute being a total amateur, Seo Do-young found herself suddenly liking this latecomer even more. Seo Do-young sought earnest confirmation from the older man, who gravely affirmed that Kim Si-hyung had never experienced baseball outside of his personal lesson center. What a letdown, the gray-haired baseball player mumbled dismissively, disappointed that the rival he thought had appeared was no rival at all. Coach Seo, the older man asked, concerned by her trembling form and covering her face, don't tell me you're crying. With a surprising shift, Seo Do-young exclaimed, this is even better. She envisioned his immense potential. To perform like that without proper training meant he would grow tremendously if he learned the game correctly. It's fine, it's fine. Seo Do-young clapped enthusiastically, declaring she would teach him step by step, while other players nervously thought her mood swings were a bit scary. The older man pondered how they would decide the ace when they didn't even have enough players for a traditional red versus white match. He concluded that to truly check an ace's abilities, they needed to observe how they overcame a crisis situation, and in that case, it had to be a certain kind of match. A tiebreaker, the older man declared, eliciting surprised and questioning reactions from the two baseball players. The older man precisely outlined the tiebreaker rules. Both pitchers would start with a no-out, bases-loaded situation, and after facing 5 batters, the one with fewer runs allowed would win. He further explained that pitchers would face a maximum of 5 batters, regardless of outs, but if they secured 3 outs, the match would end immediately. The older man proclaimed that the winning pitcher would be awarded the symbolic number 1, officially recognized as the team's ace. Both baseball players, one confidently and the other a bit nervously, voiced their acceptance and lack of objections to the rules. The gray-haired baseball player thumped with confidence, warning the freshman that Cheongil High's cleanup batter was about to face him, and those measly wiggling balls wouldn't work. With a cocky smile, he challenged them to fill the batting order with the team's core hitters, saying only that much would make it worthwhile. Seo Do-young thoughtfully rationalized Kim Si-hyung's exclusion from the quest, noting it didn't truly matter since he couldn't even be scouted as a pitcher anyway. The virtual player cards flashed, showing an overwhelming statistical advantage for C+ grade Baek Shin-sung over D grade No Jack-young, making Seo Do-young wonder if Baek Shin-sung would gain a second skill. Seo Do-young hoped, a flicker of optimism in her gaze, that he might truly become a national-level pitcher. The school building stood calm and bright under the clear blue sky, a new day beginning. A heavy thud filled the air as No Jack-young stood poised on the pitcher's mound, ready to begin. What's with that amateur? Another baseball player creaked in disbelief and irritation, questioning why someone who didn't even know baseball was at first base. I thought you said you needed to test me. Seo Do-young creaked in angry frustration, asserting that she did know how to hit. The red-haired player, sweating nervously, clarified that the test was meant for pitchers, while a female voice irritably commanded them to be quiet and focus on the game. With a decisive call, the older man, acting as umpire, signaled the official start of the game, play ball. Miss Choi Yuna gently inquired if she could watch from the side, to which Seo Do-young, warmly surprised, enthusiastically agreed. The woman, looking thoughtful, expressed her surprise upon hearing that Kim Si-hyung had no baseball experience. Oh, no. Seo Do-young replied with a pleased smile, hinting that while he lacked actual game experience, that was hardly an impediment. However, from what I've seen, a female voice commentated as the ball cracked from the bat, hit. Arg. That idiot hit the first pitch again. The red-haired catcher fumed with an angry whoosh, calling for second base, while a female voice marveled at Seung's outstanding athletic ability. The ball whizzed and then thudded as a player swiftly made a pitch. First, 1 out, a female voice announced with a decisive tap as a player was tagged out at first base. And first base, the female voice exclaimed as the player swiftly threw the ball, which landed with a thud. With this, the female voice narrated as the ball whirred at critical speed. A double play, the female voice exclaimed, followed by a surprised, ah, as the fast-paced action unfolded. Outstanding, the woman repeated, surprised, while Seo Do-young chimed in about his athletic ability, prompting a curious, huh, from the woman. Even the runner on second base scored, the female voice dramatically announced, realizing 2 runs had been scored at once. The latecomer is really pouring cold water on this, a baseball player sweated in frustrated disbelief, exclaiming that the freshman must be crazy. A young man with black hair chuckled slyly, amused by the unfolding game. Another baseball player observed, concerned, that it wasn't easy for senior Jack-young right from the first batter. As expected, another baseball player continued, reflecting on senior Jack-young's performance. A heavy thud of doubt landed as No Jack-young looked up, questioning if being the ace was simply too much for him. A young player put all his effort into the pitch, a surge of power emanating from him as the ball left his hand. The batter anticipated the incoming pitch with confidence, the ball whistling towards him as he swung with determination. The catcher's frustration boiled over, his voice rising in an angry roar as he berated the batter for his reckless, unplanned swing. The catcher's mitt hit the ground with a thud, a visual testament to a missed ball, as he continued to chastise the batter for not staying calm. The bat made contact, and a strategic debate unfolded mid-play, with one voice insisting on hitting and another warning against taking a lead. A player confidently declared he would handle the ball, kneeling decisively to retrieve it from the ground. A player's throw went wildly off course, prompting a panicked cry from him and an exasperated question about its trajectory from another. Kim Si-hyung's face hardened with intense focus, an almost visible aura of concentration surrounding him. With an astonishing leap, Kim Si-hyung soared dramatically into the air, reaching for a high-flying ball that seemed destined to clear the field. Seo Do-young and another woman watched from the sidelines, their shared excitement erupting in cheers for the truly impressive catch. Kim Si-hyung looked utterly bewildered, a singular question mark hanging over his head as he tried to process what had just happened. Still holding the ball high in confusion, Kim Si-hyung listened as a laughing teammate instructed him on the basic necessity of touching the base. The catcher's anger flared once more, his voice echoing in a furious demand to know if Kim Si-hyung had truly forgotten all the rules of baseball. Kim Si-hyung's face flushed with embarrassment as he stammered an apology, admitting his fundamental misunderstanding of the game. A teammate offered immediate reassurance, patting Kim Si-hyung's gloved hand and insisting that his exceptional catch had still been a great play. The player with glasses praised Kim Si-hyung's catch, confidently emphasizing its crucial role in preventing another score. Kim Si-hyung's cheeks colored slightly as a genuine surprise, mixed with a hint of pleasure, crossed his face at the unexpected praise. However, the catcher's sharp retort instantly shattered Kim Si-hyung's moment of pleasure, his glare quickly returning the younger player to an embarrassed silence. A teammate questioned Kim Si-hyung's ability to handle non-short hops, to which he responded with hesitant uncertainty. The teammate gave clear instructions to Kim Si-hyung, reassuring him he would deliver the ball precisely to him if he stayed rooted to the base. A player ignited his team with an energetic rallying cry, inspiring enthusiastic shouts and chants across the field. Kim Si-hyung's eyes widened slightly, a subtle sound of surprise escaping his lips as he honed his focus on the game. A confident batter smugly challenged No Jak-young, asserting he could easily hit any pitch thrown his way, even with his eyes closed. No Jak-young countered with a determined smile, a fierce energy emanating from him as he confidently declared it wouldn't be an easy task. No Jak-young announced his strategic pitch, a curveball, its swift trajectory already cutting through the air. The baseball sliced through the air with an intense, rapid spin, promising a challenging moment for the batter. The batter's eyes narrowed, his suspicion growing as he convinced himself the pitcher was merely bluffing. With overconfident bravado, the batter swung the bat, eyes defiantly closed, declaring his uncanny ability to spot any bluff. The bat connected with a powerful crack, sending a line drive screaming towards second base. A glove extended with practiced precision, poised to intercept the incoming ball. A voice, filled with surprise and urgency, echoed across the field, questioning if the difficult catch had been made. Kim Si-hyung sprinted across the field, his unusually deep positioning sparking a confused query from an observer. Players scrambled into their positions, their movement raising a question about their designated roles as infielder or outfielder. Kim Si-hyung braced himself firmly on the base, a vital reminder echoing in his mind about the proper fielding technique. A player's cleated foot slammed down with force, kicking up a cloud of dust as he propelled himself forward. A confident voice cut through the air, asserting their ability to send the ball exactly where it needed to go. Kim Si-hyung raced forward with determination, his gaze locked on the ball as he prepared to snatch it from the air. With a decisive catch at the base, Kim Si-hyung secured the second out, leaving the runner stunned as he passed by. Seo Do-young's eyes widened in utter amazement, marveling aloud at the player's incredible defensive range and pinpoint accuracy, finally understanding the true meaning of an 85 defense stat. The game's status was laid bare. After 3 batters, there were 2 outs with 2 runs allowed, an unexpectedly solid performance for the player. Kim Si-hyung declared with a confident grin that the presence of a strong infield defender fundamentally changed the team's sense of security. A teammate observed thoughtfully that Jak-young senpai appeared to be in excellent form during today's game. A mischievous junior called out to his senior, who responded with an affectionately teasing question, already anticipating his next words. The junior leaned in, whispering secrets into his senior's ear, who listened with a mix of surprise and growing curiosity. The vast, clear blue sky stretched overhead, offering a tranquil pause in the action. Seo Do-young, arms crossed, casually questioned the player about his whispered conversation with the batter, which he acknowledged with nonchalance. The 4th batter strode to the plate with determination, the air buzzing with anticipation and fervent chants of encouragement for No Jak-young. The The player leaned back, revealing to Seo Do-young that the opponent's strategic weakness was glaringly obvious to him. With unwavering determination, No Jak-young unleashed his next pitch, the ball whizzing with potent force. The batter's hands tightened around the bat, a surge of adrenaline preparing him for the incoming pitch. As the batter swung off balance, the ball zipped past him with a swift, cutting motion, unmistakably exposing his weak point. Seo Do-young's mouth dropped open in surprise as she gasped at the sudden bunt towards first base, immediately grasping the implications for the first baseman. Kim Si-hyung stood paralyzed on first base, a chaotic mix of confusion and self-doubt washing over him as he grappled with the conflicting demands of fielding the bunt and staying on the bag. A runner slid into base, safely securing another point, as the announcer confirmed 3 runs had now been allowed. The player thoughtfully explained to Seo Do-young that baseball demanded far more than just the physical acts of throwing and hitting. With a confident smile, the player asserted that strategic thinking was paramount in the game. Despite the insightful comment, Seo Do-young couldn't help but find the player's smug confidence utterly annoying. As the 5th batter strode to the plate with determination, cheers for No Jak-young filled the air, the tension of the game rising. Kim Si-hyung's face hardened with intense resolve, signaling his absolute determination for the upcoming play. No Jak-young unleashed another pitch, the ball whizzing with potent force. Kim Si-hyung declared his intent to field the ball himself, charging forward with a determined stride. The batter's hands tightened around the bat, a silent thought poised on the brink of action. The player smirked from his batting stance, confidently articulating his opponent's anticipated thoughts, mockingly labeling them a latecomer. Seo Do-young's eyes widened in utter shock as she exclaimed in disbelief, recognizing a slash hit. The batter executed a powerful swing, sending the ball rocketing with immense force. With a sharp crack, the ball soared high over Kim Si-hyung's head, leaving him with a look of surprise and frustration as it sailed past. Frustration erupted as the right fielder fumbled the ball, leading to exasperated cries about his apparent lack of focus. The runner from third sprinted across home plate, bringing the total runs allowed to a daunting 4. The batter, with a rapid scurry, dashed towards second base after the hit. The batter-runner suddenly veered towards third, an aggressive and unexpected move that caught everyone off guard. As the lead runner scored, pushing the total to 5 runs allowed, another player panted, visibly strained by the relentless action. A player, visibly strained, launched an urgent throw as the game's intensity reached a fever pitch. As the batter-runner blazed past third, a panicked player launched a wild, aimless throw, intensifying the chaos on the field. The smug player merely smiled, his confident expression betraying a complete lack of surprise. He had anticipated this exact chaotic outcome. With a clumsy scramble, a player fumbled the ball, effortlessly allowing even more runs to pile up. The triumphant batter raced across home plate, completing an inside-the-park home run that tallied 6 runs in a stunning display of strategic brilliance. The school building stood quietly beneath a clear sky, its windows reflecting a bright and calm day. Seo Do-young, however, felt a deep worry bubbling beneath the surface, reflecting the weight of recent events. Meanwhile, on the field, Kim Si-hyung wiped away sweat, his expression clearly betraying his dejection. He looked down, overwhelmed by exhaustion and the disappointment of his performance. Other players cheered loudly for a nice base-clearing hit, with one marveling at the first-ever, inside-the-park home run, while another catcher questioned if it even counted due to an error, a sentiment quickly dismissed as, just a game among ourselves. The blonde-haired player grinned, claiming he just got lucky, despite the whispers of awe from others who called him our new ace. Elsewhere, a player panted heavily on the pitcher's mound, the exhaustion of the game palpable in his every breath. His teammate, Han Tae-young, approached with a sympathetic smile, assuring him he was just unlucky. Han Tae-young's friend, the red-haired catcher, confirmed that his pitches weren't bad and suggested a proper team backing would have resulted in fewer runs. But then, the red-haired catcher voiced his frustration, asking, seriously, why they had to stick a total amateur on the team, prompting an awkward laugh from Han Tae-young. The red-haired catcher confronted Han Tae-young, noting he always offered the same comforting words. Han Tae-young smiled thoughtfully, recalling how his friend always cheered him up when he struggled, saying it wasn't his fault. He then solemnly admitted that he knew perfectly well he was included in that bad defense himself. Han Tae-young looked up, earnestly stating that his friend didn't need to put down their teammates just to comfort him, he preferred they share the sadness and frustration together. Han Tae-young's friend remained quiet, deep in thought after hearing such honest words. Suddenly, his friend playfully wrestled Han Tae-young, admitting that he also didn't do anything well either, before declaring that he would spend a year training to throw 150 km/h pitches. Seo Do-young sat contemplating the scene, a thoughtful hum escaping her lips. She analyzed No Jak-young's pitching results from the A selection match, noting he had allowed 6 runs against 5 batters and had completely collapsed on the mound. For no Jack-young to win, Seo Do-young calculated, Baek Shin-sung would have to allow an almost impossible 7 runs out of a maximum of 8, especially considering Cheongil High's F and E grade batters. Seo Do-young frowned, her eyes closed in intense concentration as she grappled with the difficult reality. Her exasperation was clear, the game was basically over already, wasn't it? However, a slight frown creased her brow as she identified one variable in this dismal equation, glancing sideways. That variable was B-grade Han Tae-young, the powerful core of Cheongil High's batting lineup, seen here mid-swing. Seo Do-young then looked back, preparing to introduce their newest recruit. He was Kim Si-hyung, equally B-grade, sitting dejected under a tree, reflecting his melancholy mood. Just then, Yuna, a young woman, offered a canned green tea, a simple gesture of care. Kim Si-hyung, still dejected, rejected the drink with a swift turn of his head, prompting Yuna to ask why he had the long face. Yuna gently probed, listing his errors, missing the ball, forgetting to step on base, and terrible bunt defense, each point met with Kim Si-hyung's quiet acknowledgement. Yuna dismissed the game as unimportant but then, with an exasperated tease, pointed out that about half of those 8 runs were directly his fault, then told him he could leave, but he stubbornly refused. Han Tae-young approached, trying to encourage Kim Si-hyung not to be too hard on himself, only for Kim Si-hyung to correct his name to Si-young. Han Tae-young offered beaming encouragement, impressed by Kim Si-hyung's defensive efforts for a first-timer and asserting that he would improve insanely fast within a year. Kim Si-hyung listened to the advice about moving on, his expression solemn and pensive. He looked down, his quiet understood signifying his acceptance of the counsel. Then, Han Tae-young playfully asked Yuna for a picture, which she happily agreed to. Han Tae-young then turned to a surprised Kim Si-hyung, informing him that he was the last batter, a sudden twist. Kim Si-hyung called out to his senior, who responded with a curious "Hm. What is it, Si-young?" Kim Si-hyung looked up, his eyes filled with resolve as he declared he would do it, confusing his senior. With powerful determination, Kim Si-hyung vowed he would make up for his defensive mistakes with his batting. Yuna, watching the exchange, had a surprised thought about being terrible at defense herself. Han Tae-young, also surprised, mentally echoed his own confidence, thinking he was good at hitting. Kim Si-hyung's red eye gleamed with fierce focus as he declared he absolutely will finish his thought. He then boldly declared he would hit it out of the park, as Baek Shin-sung, the blonde-haired pitcher, wound up for his throw. Baek Shin-sung scanned the field, noting with a tense thought that there were nobody out. He acknowledged the high-stakes situation, with bases loaded. Baek Shin-sung then confidently began his wind-up, thinking this was the kind of situation that would make any normal pitcher nervous, but not him. For him, he thought, it actually brought exhilarating excitement. His heart raced as he unleashed his pitch, feeling the full thrill of the game. The batter made solid contact, the ball sharply impacting the catcher's mitt. A digital display flashed, showing the pitch analysis, a velocity of 138 km per hour and a spin rate of 2,070 revolutions per minute. Seo Do-young analytically processed the impressive fastball approaching 140 km per hour combined with a left-handed sidearm trajectory, concluding that even batters from decent teams would struggle against him. Yet, Seo Do-young's determined expression suggested that even so, there was still a chance. Han Tae-young, the red-haired batter, gripped his bat, defiantly thinking the pitch can still be hit. He mentally confirmed that, aside from himself, the others wouldn't stand a chance against him. In that case, Han Tae-young thought, he knew what he had to do. He focused completely on fouling the ball off, successfully doing so as a call of "foul" echoed. The other players cheered excitedly, urging the pitcher to strike him out, as the count reached 2 strikes. Han Tae-young knew that with this, the pitcher would try to narrow the strike zone as much as possible. He threw the ball, and Han Tae-young continued his strategic thought, planning to keep fouling off those borderline pitches. The batter swung, and ball 2-1 was called, keeping Han Tae-young's hope alive. Baek Shin-sung, the pitcher, clicked his tongue in frustration, acknowledging that even if it wasn't a 3-pitch strikeout, he still aimed for an out. The batter hit another foul, which was called out, as Baek Shin-sung firmly believed an out is still an out. Han Tae-young made contact again, terrifyingly focused, his eyes glowing yellow as he resolved that he absolutely can't miss and must just make contact no matter what. The ball was caught in a glove, and another ball was called. With another crack, the bat hit a foul ball. The pitcher threw a low ball, resulting in a tense, full count. Baek Shin-sung pulled his cap down in frustration, acknowledging it was already a full count, as an off-panel voice urged the batter to draw a walk. Han Tae-young, bat held firmly, conceded that Baek Shin-sung had good stuff. However, he continued his thought, a challenge forming in his mind. With a dramatic air, Han Tae-young declared that if a pitcher can't throw strikes, he's not a pitcher. Baek Shin-sung pulled his cap further down, his face a mask of annoyance as he dismissed Han Tae-yang's words as pointless nonsense that was seriously starting to piss him off. A blonde-haired young man strained, unleashing a powerful pitch. The black-haired batter fouled the ball, sending it shooting past the catcher. Teammates cheered, some hoping for a strikeout, others for a dramatic walk-off. The blonde-haired young man muttered in annoyance, realizing the slippery ground was hindering his control. He smirked, confident his opponent's strategy of fouling off pitches would ultimately fail. The system announced that pitcher Baek Shin-sung was activating a skill, and he claimed the only reason the batter had fouled off pitches was because he had been holding back, as he unleashed a powerful pitch. Han Tae-yong, the batter, realized with a jolt that it was an inside pitch. But then the ball's trajectory dramatically broke, leaving the batter bewildered. The bat struck the ball with a loud crack, connecting just in time. The catcher stared, dumbfounded by the unexpected turn of events. The umpire called a strike, signaling an out, and the team erupted in cheers. Baek Shin-sung, adjusting his cap, dismissed his teammates over his pitch as unimpressive. He declared his absolute intent to win the showdown in a completely overwhelming fashion. A red-haired player groaned in deep frustration, gripping the fence. The frustrated player questioned the decision, as Han Tae-yong apologized, admitting he truly believed the pitch was a ball. Seo Do-young recognized Han Tae-yong's strategy was sound, but even a setup pitch from a pitcher like this was proving too much for Cheongil High's batters. Facing such unique movement for the first time would only make it harder, meaning they were at a distinct disadvantage. Han Tae-yong acknowledged the current at-bat heavily favored Baek Shin-sung. Baek Shin-sung glanced over, casually addressing his opponent. He then continued, a subtle smirk playing on his lips. The pitch rocketed forward as he feigned forgetting Han Tae-yong's name, a calculated taunt. The catcher snatched the ball with a powerful impact, and shouts of strike and praise for Baek Shin-sung filled the air. The red-haired player loudly reprimanded Han Tae-yong for not following instructions, but Han Tae-yong calmly reminded him it was only one strike. Han Tae-yong quietly pondered his next move, adjusting his helmet. He resolved not to swing at the next pitch. The catcher secured the pitch, and the umpire called ball. Han Tae-yong swung, connecting with the ball and announcing the new count, 2 balls, 1 strike. Han Tae-yong called for a timeout, admitting in his thoughts that he simply couldn't read the ball's trajectory. Seo Do-young decided to simply wait out the pitches, understanding that for a left-handed batter, it likely felt like the ball was coming directly out of their blind spot. Han Tae-yong flinched, but the umpire called ball, though teammates remarked on the pitch's exceptional quality. Baek Shin-sung smirked, confidently taunting that no one could possibly hit his pitches. Han Tae-yong gulped, realizing he had no choice but to let the next pitch go by. Baek Shin-sung aggressively yelled for the batter to get back in the box, not to get too comfortable. Han Tae-yong quickly decided to scrap his original plan. He swiftly shifted his stance, enacting Plan B by preparing to bunt. The bench erupted with shouts of bunt and instructions to throw to third. Baek Shin-sung confidently ran to cover the bunt, having anticipated it, while his surprised teammates questioned if he had called it. Baek Shin-sung quickly instructed a throw to first, securing an out. Suddenly, another player rushed past, determined to make the throw, startling Baek Shin-sung. Baek Shin-sung stumbled and fell with a loud crash, angrily demanding to know what had just happened. A player yelled in frustration that the ball had been thrown in the wrong direction, adding to the disarray. The catcher looked utterly confused by the frantic, conflicting instructions to catch the ball and make a play at home. With a desperate cry of, "Wait," the catcher dove for the ball. The catcher stumbled, allowing the runner from third to score easily, marking 1 critical run. An enraged Baek Shin-sung confronted the startled player, demanding an explanation. He furiously insisted that they should have at least secured the out at first base. Han Tae-yong triumphantly slid into first base, declared safe. Baek Shin-sung's face tightened with annoyance. He let out a sarcastic, "Ha." Baek Shin-sung challenged the senior player, mockingly asking what he was supposed to do if the catcher stumbled, leaving the senior stunned. Another player angrily grabbed Baek Shin-sung's shoulder, accusing him of interfering and causing them to miss an out. With irritating condescension, Baek Shin-sung rattled off the correct strategy, questioning if he truly had to explain basic gameplay to everyone. 2 senior players reacted with shocked indignation at Baek Shin-sung's disrespect, reminding him of their seniority. Baek Shin-sung merely responded with another sarcastic, "Ha." He then offered a clearly insincere apology, blaming the heat of the game for his harsh words and promising to be more careful. The 2 senior players were left speechless, utterly taken aback by his thinly veiled mockery. An older man intervened, authoritatively ordering everyone back to their positions, and Baek Shin-sung complied, though the others remained awkward. Seo Do-young observed the team's internal conflict with a worried expression. Seo Do-young, off-panel, internally scolded him about his attitude, though Baek Shin-sung was actually replaying the play in his mind, considering if he should have thrown home. Baek Shin-sung tried to rally his team, emphasizing the need to focus on securing one out at a time. He gritted his teeth, a flicker of fierce determination in his eyes. Seo Do-young observed that he was beginning to unravel, noticing changes in his delivery and expression. Even his breathing was strained as he pushed himself through the demanding pitch. The catcher reacted with urgent alarm to the incoming pitch. With a desperate cry, the catcher lunged, but missed, dropping the crucial ball. The runner on third base seized the opportunity and scored. Every runner on base advanced by one. Baek Shin-sung gasped for air, utterly frustrated by how easily it had all fallen apart. Utterly distraught, Baek Shin-sung couldn't believe he had given up his second run. The game escalated quickly as the catcher disastrously fumbled the ball. A runner from third sprinted home, adding to the frustrated pitcher's inner turmoil over giving up another run in such a baffling way. The catcher slumped in utter despair, cursing his own misjudgment. Panic surged through the catcher as he frantically tried to recover. But a cold dread washed over him, a stark realization that it was already far too late to salvage the play. The blonde-haired young man noted the inevitable, as the run was already tallied, leaving the catcher in silent defeat. The catcher's mind raced, trying to convince himself that the error was beyond his control, desperately seeking solace in self-reassurance. With a determined adjustment of his cap, the blonde-haired young man accepted the weight of the moment, knowing the responsibility now rested squarely on him. His jaw set with a quiet, firm acknowledgement of his resolve. He gazed down, reflecting on his decision to endure the harsh realities of the game, a challenge he had anticipated all along. Seo Do-young meticulously tallied the damage, contemplating the implications of 2 batters faced and 2 runs allowed. She considered the unexpected turn of events. She had anticipated a run during her own turn at bat, not from the top of the order. The batters swallowed nervously, hoping their number 3 hitter could somehow avoid a double play. With surging determination, the blonde-haired young man moved with purpose, focused on keeping the momentum alive for the next batter. The bat made an unexpected connection, sending the ball rebounding sharply. The batter gasped in dismay, realizing his intended foul had comically become an easy pop-up instead. A fielder anxiously tracked the soaring ball, his eyes wide with anticipation. Seo Do-young's surprise turned to concern as she pinpointed the ball's trajectory directly into the frustratingly difficult dead zone between third base and left field. A fielder lunged with incredible speed, nearly making a spectacular catch that would have robbed a sure hit. As the runner from third burst towards home, desperate shouts echoed across the field, urging the left fielder to recover and make a play. With a defiant roar, the player launched a powerful, laser-like throw, refusing to be underestimated. A thunderous collision erupted at home plate, the crowd holding its breath to see who would prevail in the high-stakes play. The tangle of bodies at home plate left everyone questioning the outcome. Had the catcher made the tag, or had the runner safely slid in? The catcher glared intensely at the runner, a silent challenge hanging heavy in the air. Suddenly, the catcher's shock turned to utter confusion as he realized his glove was empty, the ball having disappeared mid-play. The baseball finally trickled to a stop at the plate, a frustratingly delayed arrival that sealed the missed opportunity. The blonde-haired pitcher crouched dejectedly on the mound, reflecting on the 3 runs he had allowed, closing the gap with Cheongil to a mere 3 runs. He let out a bitter, humorless laugh, finding the spiraling absurdity of the situation almost unbearable. A new batter decisively approached the plate, adding another layer of tension for their rookie pitcher. The stadium buzzed with anticipation as Cheongil High's formidable cleanup hitter, Han Tae-young, stepped to the plate with an electrifying presence. The catcher nervously swallowed, bracing himself for the powerful batter. Even the other players on the field gulped in anxious apprehension, the tension palpable. Seo Do-young felt her heart thudding in her chest, the anxiety of the moment becoming overwhelming. She observed intently, sensing an intangible power radiating from the batter that transcended mere statistics and completely shifted the game's atmosphere. Han Tae-young gripped his bat with quiet intensity, his reputation preceding him. A menacing aura enveloped Han Tae-young, confirming Seo Do-young's assessment of him as an exceptionally dangerous hitter. The blonde-haired pitcher swallowed hard, a wave of anxiety washing over him as he confronted a batter unlike any he had ever faced. A chilling premonition settled deep within him, unsettling his usual composure. As the batter's intense gaze met his, a familiar, unsettling memory stirred within him. Han Tae-young's imposing presence conjured the terrifying image of a formidable past rival, casting a long, foreboding shadow. He gritted his teeth in sheer frustration, his resolve hardening. With a defiant roar, the blonde-haired pitcher launched into his wind-up, declaring that no opponent, regardless of their reputation, would intimidate him. He completed his powerful pitch, his fierce determination ringing true, he simply refused to lose. The batter's eye gleamed with an almost supernatural focus, completely locked onto the incoming ball. The bat made an explosive, resounding contact, sending a shockwave through the field. The blonde-haired pitcher instantly registered the ominous sound, his face twisting in a grimace of regret. Han Tae-young, with a hint of a smug smile, casually admitted that his mighty swing was merely a friendly greeting. He nonchalantly walked away as the ball sailed into the backstop, acknowledging that he had gotten under it a little too much. Seo Do-young stared in awe, analytically realizing that had the contact been just slightly higher, the ball would have completely cleared the school grounds. The blonde-haired pitcher stood on the mound, panting heavily, utterly exhausted but still standing. Han Tae-young defiantly scoffed at tactical play, arrogantly declaring his intention to always swing for the fences, dismissing his opponents as mere scrubs. The catcher, riddled with anxiety, called a timeout to question their strategy, desperately suggesting they intentionally walk the powerful batter. The coach, already deep in his own strategic considerations, questioned the catcher's immediate concern. The coach calmly laid out his plan. With first base open, there was no logical reason to pitch to Hwang Tae-young, leaving the catcher surprised. His plan continued, detailing how they would strike out the next batter, a rookie, to end the game, as the blonde-haired pitcher absorbed the harsh reality. The blonde-haired pitcher let out a bitter, hollow laugh, a sound of resigned acceptance. The blonde-haired pitcher's stern address caught the catcher off guard, sparking an immediate tension. His eyes blazed with fierce resolve as he declared with absolute certainty that he would never lose to anyone. The blonde-haired pitcher's audacious command left the catcher utterly shocked and speechless. The high school stood peacefully under the clear blue sky, a momentary reprieve from the intense game unfolding. The catcher, confused, questioned the pitcher's plan, which the red-haired batter clarified with a slight amusement. The red-haired batter smirked slyly, acknowledging a grudging admiration for the pitcher's bold courage. The blonde-haired pitcher confidently challenged Cheongil's cleanup hitter, his wind-up a declaration of war. The red-haired batter gave a confident nod of approval, appreciating the pitcher's fierce attitude. With an absolute, fierce declaration that he would never concede to any batter, the blonde-haired pitcher unleashed his powerful throw. Meeting the pitch with his own fiery determination, the red-haired batter connected with explosive force. The blonde-haired pitcher completed his follow-through, his focus unwavering even after the powerful hit. A sudden, visceral shock registered on the blonde-haired pitcher's face, betraying the sheer impact of the hit. A decisive hand signal flashed through the air, conveying an immediate, critical message. The red-haired batter stood, pleased with himself, finding wicked amusement in the challenge of breaking in his spirited opponent. The warm, golden light of sunset settled over the baseball field, hinting at the quiet routines that unfolded there each day. Amidst the expectant murmurs of fans, whispers began to spread, recognizing the young man in the uniform as Baek Myung-ho's son. The young man connected with the ball with an explosive crack, sending it soaring as the crowd roared with excitement. The impressed fans, watching in awe, declared that the player was truly in a league of his own, on a different level entirely. Their praises continued, asserting that he was everything expected of Baek Myung-ho's son, a declaration heard by a serious blonde-haired young man standing nearby. A fan's shout labeling him a natural-born genius intensified the blonde-haired young man's already serious expression. Yet, the blonde-haired young man was lost in his own thoughts, a deep contemplation settling over him. Suddenly, another baseball player's excited shouts announced a two-run homer, the ball arcing dramatically through the bright sky. The red-haired player, Han Tae-young, confidently rounded the bases after his home run, a triumphant smile on his face. He declared the powerful hit his way of saying hello, a cocky gesture as he rounded the bases. The unseen catcher called out to the blonde-haired young man, Baek Shin-sung, who appeared utterly defeated and panting. Baek Shin-sung struggled for breath, the physical and emotional strain clearly weighing on him. An unseen man told the exhausted Baek Shin-sung to come down, insisting there was no need to push himself further. In a flash of unsettling memory, Baek Shin-sung heard a menacing figure's voice echoing the words, "Don't have the talent," as if struck by them. Seo Do-young, exasperated, confronted the pitcher about allowing 5 runs against 4 batters, admitting she never thought he'd actually give up a home run to Han Tae-young. Despite the setback, Seo Do-young reflected with concern that the core situation hadn't truly changed, her resolve unwavering. Still, the blonde-haired young man's intense focus returned to the last batter, his gaze unwavering. As Kim Si-hyung stepped up to the plate, an unseen player remarked that the win still belonged to Baek Shin-sung, as long as Kim Si-hyung didn't hit a home run, while the catcher greeted him with surprise. The clear blue sky overhead promised continued intensity for the match. The blonde-haired young man let out a weary sigh, a mixture of exhaustion and continued anxiety. Teammates rushed to encourage the blonde-haired young man, urging him not to let the home run get to him, reminding him that Han Tae-young was simply that kind of exceptional hitter. The blonde-haired young man, adjusting his cap, assured them he was fine and capable, though a hint of strain remained. The catcher reacted with audible relief to the blonde-haired young man's assertion of confidence. Another teammate encouraged the blonde-haired young man, reminding him it was only one batter left, an easy opponent who barely knew baseball, and urged him to relax. Baek Shin-sung acknowledged the remaining batter in his thoughts, identifying him as the latecomer. Yet, a deeper question lingered in Baek Shin-sung's mind about this upcoming batter. He wondered why this latecomer also felt dangerous, sensing a foreboding hum radiating from Kim Si-hyung. The blonde-haired young man's senses tingled, a growing awareness forming within him. From Kim Si-hyung, he perceived the same powerful aura he'd encountered before. He recognized the unsettling presence, equating Kim Si-hyung's intensity to that of a monster, a memory that sent a shiver through him. The unseen voice of the dark-haired man again urged the distressed Baek Shin-sung to stop. The blonde-haired young man gritted his teeth, a silent battle of resolve against the encroaching doubt. Clutching the baseball firmly, the blonde-haired young man prepared to pitch, a defiant response brewing within him. The menacing figure's words, "Don't have the talent," echoed once more in Baek Shin-sung's mind, a torment he couldn't escape. With an angry shout, Baek Shin-sung unleashed his pitch, trying to cast away his mental torment with sheer force. Kim Si-hyung reacted with a confused, huh, to the intense, unexpected pitch. The ball struck Kim Si-hyung with a sharp impact, causing him to flinch dramatically. Seo Do-young's eyes widened in profound shock at the unexpected turn of events. Another baseball player, glasses askew, registered shock and worry. The red-haired baseball player looked on with a grave, serious expression. He slowly turned his head, his focus entirely on the unfolding situation. The latecomer was down, a player shouting that he had been hit by the pitch, sending concern through the field as Kim Si-hyung lay injured. Two bewildered baseball players whispered amongst themselves, unsure if the game was now over and if Baek Shin-sung had won. An unseen voice wondered aloud if the pitcher had hit him on purpose, as Baek Shin-sung remained kneeling on the mound. Seo Do-young rushed to Kim Si-hyung's side, urgently asking if he was okay and if he was hurt, noting the bad sound the impact made. The dark-haired man, now revealed as a catcher, knelt beside Kim Si-hyung and asked with stern concern if he was still alive. Kim Si-hyung struggled to speak, only managing a partial sound before the catcher prompted him for more. Lying there, Kim Si-hyung reflected on the scary intensity of real baseball games. The dark-haired man chuckled lightly, observing that Kim Si-hyung didn't seem truly hurt. Kim Si-hyung calmly explained that the ball had only grazed his arm because he turned his body, but admitted it still made a loud thud, as he stood to reassure the concerned Seo Do-young and other players. Gripping his bat once more, Kim Si-hyung reassured everyone that he was truly fine. Kim Si-hyung declared his intention to continue the game, startling the kneeling blonde-haired pitcher. The dark-haired man, now holding a bat with a serious expression, addressed the situation with a deep hum. He exasperatedly admonished the players for their shocking lack of basic baseball rules. The catcher clarified that getting hit by a pitch automatically put the batter on first base, thus ending the five-batter showdown. The dark-haired man then declared Baek Shin-sung the winner of the challenge. Two baseball players whispered accusations, questioning if Baek Shin-sung had intentionally hit the batter, asserting it was going too far. The red-haired player, however, angrily dismissed their nonsense and insisted he hadn't hit the batter on purpose, playfully hitting the two accusers. He then pointed to the skid marks, explaining that he had slipped because he was pitching in regular sneakers, which the other players then understood, noting Baek Shin-sung's polite flop. The dark-haired man, admitting his doubt, confirmed his assessment to Baek Shin-sung, forgiving him as people make mistakes. He then offered the surprised Baek Shin-sung jersey number 1, as previously promised. Baek Shin-sung, looking down, mused that the offer felt like a subtle jab, a challenge veiled in the words, "if I want it." The dark-haired man explained that he offered it precisely because Baek Shin-sung seemed unsatisfied with himself. The blonde-haired young man pondered the catcher's words, a thoughtful expression on his face. The dark-haired man watched him intently, his gaze unwavering. With a resigned sigh, the blonde-haired young man accepted, declaring he would pass on being ace, which shocked the unseen players. The red-haired player, hands on his hips, was utterly surprised, reminding him that on paper, he was the one who had won. The blonde-haired young man, however, asserted that his victory wasn't dominant, and that a win squeezed out by hitting the ball into a hole didn't truly count, so he would keep it clean and aim for next time. The red-haired player playfully grabbed the blonde-haired young man in a headlock, emphasizing that as a first year, there was no need to rush. The dark-haired man then confirmed that the team's number 1, their ace, was now decided. He announced Captain No Jak-young as the ace, prompting an ecstatic cheer from No Jak-young and another player. The team gathered around No Jak-young, offering heartfelt congratulations and unwavering belief in their new ace. No Jak-young, beaming with joy, celebrated his new role with a theatrical, ta-da, fanfare. The school building stood quietly under the warm, orange glow of sunset, marking the end of another day. The red-haired baseball player, impatient, asked the blonde-haired young man what he wanted, noting that everyone else had already gone home. The blonde-haired young man addressed the dark-haired man, now clearly revealed as the coach, with a serious tone. The coach reminded the blonde-haired young man about his earlier request to check something. The red-haired player, confused, questioned what was going to be checked. The focus shifted to the pitcher's cleats firmly planted on the mound. The coach finally revealed they were checking Kim Si-hyung's actual pitching ability. Kim Si-hyung spoke with conviction, bringing up a past declaration about someone's abilities. Han Tae-young reminded the coach of his earlier skepticism, while the coach wished they had done this during the day. Han Tae-young admitted the situation was rather embarrassing. Still, Han Tae-young asserted his vital role as the starting catcher. The weight of his position pressed down as Han Tae-young worried about failing to handle a rookie's pitches. An unheard comment seemed to choke Han Tae-young, making him snap back, "Excuse me?" Han Tae-young bitterly felt they were completely looking down on him as he slid his glove into the bag. Han Tae-young aggressively pointed at Kim Si-hyung, directly addressing him as latecomer. With a confident smirk, Han Tae-young challenged the pitcher, demanding he go all out with full power. Kim Si-hyung, surprised by the intensity, quickly acknowledged the challenge. Seo Do-young tried to ask Han Tae-young something, but he impatiently dismissed it, too annoyed to listen. Seo Do-young continued, carefully explaining that she had discussed the matter with Manager Park. She then revealed that she and Manager Park had decided he and Jak-young needed to hear something important. Her foot landed with a firm step, underscoring the weight of her next words. Seo Do-young delivered a shocking command, "Don't win the upcoming practice game." Kim Si-hyung focused intently, preparing to release his pitch. The ball hurtled forward with incredible speed and force. The catcher, Han Tae-young, reacted with extreme shock as the pitch whistled and vibrated towards him. Han Tae-young lunged, making a powerful, explosive catch. Seo Do-young's face was etched with worry as she anxiously called out, "You okay, Tae-young?" Kim Si-hyung, too, looked concerned, anxiously asking if Han Tae-young was alright. Han Tae-young fell heavily to the ground, dazed by the impact. Still dazed on the ground, Han Tae-young swore in disbelief, wondering aloud about the pitch's incredible speed. With an impressed hum, Seo Do-young stated the pitch clocked in at a precise 154.6 kilometers, baffling the off-panel Han Tae-young with her accuracy. Han Tae-young, still dazed, lightly patted his chest as he questioned the reality of what he had just heard. Han Tae-young revealed the crushing truth: a loss in the practice game meant the baseball club would be shut down, instantly shocking Seo Do-young. The devastating news of the club's potential disbandment echoed through Seo Do-young's mind, leaving her in utter shock. The coach's firm declaration that they weren't losing surprised Han Tae-young. The coach emphasized that victory depended solely on Han Tae-young's ability to receive Kim Si-hyung's pitches perfectly. Kim Si-hyung's thoughts turned to the looming weekend practice game. Seo Do-young's face reflected the deep worry she felt for the baseball club's fate. The coach then made it explicitly clear that the entire fate of the club now rested on Han Tae-young. Han Tae-young smirked, expressing his gratitude for the immense burden he'd been so honorably granted. Han Tae-young authoritatively instructed Kim Si-hyung to forget about cram school after class, starting today. Han Tae-young pointed forward with fierce intensity, declaring a full week of special training every day until sundown. Kim Si-hyung's eye widened in sheer surprise at the sudden announcement. He scratched his head, thinking indifferently that he didn't go to cram school anyway. Seo Do-young flopped onto her bed, letting out a heavy sigh of pure exhaustion. A system notification chimed, asking if she wanted to check her quest reward, instantly reminding Seo Do-young about her new skill. Seo Do-young looked confused, questioning why there were 3 skill cards instead of just 1. The system prompted her to choose one of the 3 unknown cards, making Seo Do-young groan about the random gotcha mechanic. With a huff, Seo Do-young chose the middle card, and the system confirmed that the scouter had obtained the reward. The system then prepared to reveal the skill the scouter had obtained. A glowing holographic card dramatically revealed the new skill, low kick. Seo Do-young's face lit up as she realized the low kick skill was a perfect, incredibly lucky draw for Jak-young's needs. Seo Do-young mentally reviewed her team's formidable pitching arsenal: Baek Shin-sung's snake fastball, No Jak-young's new low strikes, and Kim Si-hyung's impressive 150 km/h fastball. She mused that with these 3 pitchers, Cheongil High could truly aim for greatness this year. She sat in quiet contemplation, the weight of her ambitions settling upon her. A deep sigh escaped Seo Do-young as she acknowledged the immense challenge of beating Baekryong in the upcoming practice game. Despite their golden generation graduating, Baekryong High remained the country's strongest team for one crucial reason: they still had him. The powerful silhouette of the monster, Jo Chon-young, loomed in her thoughts, a top prospect with an unheard of 0.87 ERA and 0 home runs allowed in his high school career. She realized that if Jo Chon-young started in the practice game, it was essentially a guaranteed loss for her team. Seo Do-young sat up, letting out a sudden cry as she desperately tried to reassure herself that Baekryong wouldn't deploy their ace against them, especially with the weekend league so close. From behind, Seo Do-young mused on strategy, believing Han Tae-young and Kim Si-hyung could handle Baekryung's lesser pitchers, but lamenting the lack of information on their hitters. Seo Do-young cried out in frustration, wishing she could simply see Baekryung's players in person to devise a winning strategy. Her cell phone suddenly buzzed, glowing with an incoming call. Seo Do-young looked confused as she picked up her phone, seeing an unsaved number calling. Seo Do-young answered, momentarily fumbling her introduction by mentioning the unicorns before correcting herself as Cheongil High's coach. Seo Do-young's face crumpled in confusion and annoyance when the caller asked her to repeat her identity. Seo Do-young shot upright on her bed, utterly shocked by what she heard on the phone. The next day, after school, the grand facade of Cheongil High School stood under a clear blue sky. Seo Do-young walked with determined purpose towards the formidable school gates. Seo Do-young's sly smile spread, celebrating the perfect timing that allowed her to infiltrate Cheongil High. Seo Do-young triumphantly spread her arms, loudly thanking the baseball god, much to the acute embarrassment of nearby students who tried to avert their eyes. Seo Do-young checked her phone, noting her companions were running a little late. Seo Do-young looked surprised as a sleek white car pulled up beside her. The woman stepping out of the car offered an apologetic smile, admitting her tardiness. Yuna, the glamorous woman, explained her lateness was due to a longer-than-expected commercial shoot, prompting an excited cry of her name from Seo Do-young. Yuna confirmed that Seo Do-young hadn't forgotten her role as a one-day manager, to which Seo Do-young enthusiastically pledged to stick to her schedule. Yuna asked if they should begin, and Seo Do-young eagerly agreed. Seo Do-young and Yuna, with determined and mischievous smiles, declared their mission, Operation Infiltrate Cheongil High's baseball team.